A belated good afternoon to Portimao in the Algarve and the circuit of the Algarve, where, as you can see, the Grid 4 this afternoon's 6th round of the FIA GT Championship is indeed forming up, although it is behind schedule. We have shared the track this weekend with GP2, as you may have known, and their race before us was interrupted by a fairly big accident on the start line, more or less where the front row is now. And they were delayed while the race was stopped, and that was cleared away. Everybody's just a little bit behind schedule, but you aren't going to miss anything because we've got it covered, haven't we?
We have. We're sorted. We're ready to go. And as soon as we are able to, we'll get the race underway and bring you our usual lights to flag coverage.
The start of this race is going to be at 2:25, so we are exactly 10 minutes late. We were going to tell you an awful lot of things in the 15 minutes we've missed, and obviously we can't now. We'll do our best to fill you in. If you've been watching and paying attention, looking on the website, you'll know that qualifying saw Enrique Bernoldi fastest, and in GT1 that is, of course, and that's the Sangari Team Brazil Corvette there, surrounded by what I'm only allowed to describe as a bevy of beauties. Anything else is politically unacceptable. Bernoldi, but behind him, as you can see, Maserati, and in GT2 further back down the field, Matthias Russo and his sister says good luck to Matthias and well done for your second pole. She's watching in Argentina and sent us an email. She's wished him good luck. He's on pole position, behind him Martin Raginger, and behind that will be the Marco Holzer.
A couple of cars still to take up their places on the grid.
We've had plenty of warning, but they'll all be out there. This is what we're dealing with. Look, 38 degrees on track. That's 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 degrees the air temperature. It is, as you can see, sunny and dry, and it is a complicated map, but I'm assured it's easier to learn than it looks. And the tricky one is at the top there, where it says Int 2 at the end of the middle sector. That's over a blind crest, and picking a braking point at the top there is really hard. And the final corner where it says S3, that's a real monster as well. No one has got it absolutely nailed every time, and so those two corners are going to be the difficult ones. You'll see most of the overtaking happening at the end of the main straight, because although it's wide, there aren't very many opportunities for overtaking. We've seen that even in qualifying and in the free practice sessions before that. A little bit windy, as you can see, the flag's fluttering nicely in the breeze, but it's also fluttering our camera on the bridge over the start-finish straight. And as the grid forms up, let's remind you that we have two very close championship battles going on. In GT1, Bartels and Bertolini and the number one Maserati, 4 points clear of Hazeman and Kumpen in the number 4 PK Racing Corvette. After that, Xavier Masson is busy defending third, and we'll have more about him later on. And in GT2, look at this, Vilander and Bruni, defending champions, 2 points ahead of Collard and Westbrook after a monster performance last time out at Budapest by Pro Speed and those two drivers. They are locked in a very tight battle, and you are going to see that played out here over the course of the next couple of hours. Getting into the car there, I think, is Baz Linders, preparing to take the number 40 Mark VDS Ford GT out, the only one of next year's 2010 spec GT1 cars to appear on the grid here at Portimao. It's a little bit slower than this year's GT1s and a little bit faster than the GT2s. That was one of our latecomers, Graham, just cutting through the field there. That was the Corvette of Mike Hazeman.
And Anthony Kumpen, who's due to start. So there's one of the Pro Sport Porsches, the Pro Speed Porsches. That one sadly was relegated to third position in qualifying, although it posted second fastest time on that lap. It was deemed that the Marco Holzer, the young driver aboard at the time, had taken all 4 wheels of the car outside the limit of the track, so that lap time was disallowed, and his next best places him in third on the grid.
It's a Formula One style circuit. It's very wide, and the runoff areas are that exactly. They are runoff areas, not gravel traps, and therefore you can run wide, and then bring the car back on track. The race officials have been watching that, and if anybody does it in this race, expect them to apply penalties.
In front of that young lady, there should be this car getting round at the very last minute, but Longin explaining what he's going to be doing when it's his turn, but not his turn yet. James Ruffier, the GT3 champion of last season, has planted the car on the front row and was absolutely delighted with that performance yesterday. Almost unexpected, I think.
Well, we didn't, did we?
No, it was. It's been a very difficult time for the GT1 drivers, particularly this weekend. A complete lack of grip sometimes, and we believe that is down to the GP2 races leaving Bridgestone rubber on the circuit, where our guys are using Michelin predominantly, other than Pirelli's for the BMS Scuderia Italia pair of Ferraris. But also talking to one of the GP2 mechanics, he was suggesting that not only is that a problem, but potentially the Renault Mecachrome engines in the back of these GP2 cars, he says, not me, he says, push quite a lot of fluids, unquote, out and back. So that might be contributing to the track condition. This is how the grid is going to line up.
Yes, as we said, Sangari Team Brazil on pole position, courtesy of Enrique Bernaldi. Then it's that fine lap from James Ruffier. Alex Muller in the number 2 car. They've had some handling problems. They've got that sorted out. Kumpen is next, and that's where he wants to be, because he's in front of Pier Guidi and Andrea Bertolini. And that's the car that they are battling with, the number 1 in 6th place. Then it's that 4 GT, Bas Linders, Renault Kuppens, and then our GT2 pole man is Matthias Russo for Picom Racing Argentina, Martin Raggins, Marco Holzer, we spoke about, Malicelli, and then Jimmy Bruni is down in 12th place on the grid overall, but he is 4 places in front of Emmanuel Collard, which means that the GT2 championship battle is polarised in favour of the points leaders and defending champions, while in GT1 it's polarised the other way at the moment, just slightly in favour of the 2nd place Corvette of Hazemans and Kumpen, and of course Bartels and Bertolini, Vitafone Maserati are our defending champions in GT1.
And you'll see on the ticker at the bottom of the screen there, those with the eagle eyes, that the word penalty came up next to Alex Muller's time, and he's actually been demoted to 8th place on the grid, a 5th-place penalty as a result of the accident that was instigated by him, it was deemed, at Budapest. So starting on the outside of row 4 instead of the inside of row 2.
Our race start is due in 2.5 minutes from now, so we're just seconds away from the green. He was surprised, wasn't he, James Ruffier, and so were we.
Yeah, yes, and SRT will be delighted to got that far up the grid to start. It's not an easy place to get past people here. There is one really good line around many of these corners, and when it comes to GT1 cars lapping GT2s later, if you catch them in that middle sector where you were pointing out the difficult corners on the map that we saw, that might well be difficult, and people getting held up at the wrong part of the circuit will be costing themselves a lot of time.
As far as I can tell from the people I've spoken to, the wrong part of the circuit is everywhere from the first corner to the last corner, because no one's, they all say this every time, and then they just go and overtake each other like mad things everywhere, don't they? But they've all said, I can't see where it's going to happen. I can't see any opportunities to get a good pass on anybody. There are what there aren't is many outbraking opportunities, and one of the reasons for that is a lot of the corners are approached over a blind crest, where choosing your braking point is tricky at the best of times, but a real problem when you're trying to overtake someone. And if you brake too deep, it doesn't have the grip, and what happens, of course, is that the front of the car is like coming over the crest. You stamp on the brakes, nothing happens, and for a while, and then we've seen a lot of that during practice and qualifying. A lot of people running off, just caught out by their braking point.
Yep, you may well see a lot of slipping and sliding, uncharacteristically so, in the first hour of this race. As the circuit then rubbers in with more familiar Michelin rubber, then I think you'll find that the grip is rather better.
Alex Muller, thumbs up to us and to the team, because he is just about ready for the start of this race, which is due in a couple of minutes, in fact just under half a minute. 20 seconds from now, this formation lap will get underway and we will officially be in the 6th round of the FIA GT Championship from the circuit of the Algarve in this gorgeous Portuguese sunshine. It's a lovely sunny afternoon. The grandstands are quite full. Lots of people come out from Portimao, which is just up the road or just down the road on the coast, the marina there, and we've got a fairly good crowd in the grandstands, but it's such a huge circuit that it looks empty. They're everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's lots of people, but there's not enough to fill up all the grandstands. Its capacity is truly enormous, isn't it?
Yep, it is, and there in shot is Emmanuel Collard taking the first stint in the number 60 Pro Speed Porsche Championship contenders, but they're going to have to pedal some to overcome Jimmy Bruni and Tony Vilander in the AF Corsa Ferrari this weekend.
They're starting a good way behind them, as we said earlier on, and that means that passing them during this race simply is not going to be very easy. They've got to catch them first, of course, and that's never going to be easy. It's a switchback of a circuit coming downhill on the left and climbing away on the right of that picture and coming towards us now, as you can see, and these crests are the tricky part of the circuit. Not so hard to memorize. Everybody says it's a shorter circuit than the 4.7 kilometers would suggest, and it's easy to memorize. It's fairly clearly laid out, and it's fairly simple to commit that to memory. But just getting the braking points right when they're, because it's so wide, there's an option on many lines, there's an option of which way the corner's going to go after the blind crest. Lots of tricky things here that have made life difficult for all of the drivers, and we've seen that in qualifying, that lots of people have had good sectors, but not many people manage to get good laps.
No, and that will be the key, won't it, Richard, to
That's
race
racing,
success
yes.
here. It's not what you can do on a single lap, it's putting those qualities together lap after lap after lap, and then calling your strategy right, deciding when you're going to do your pit stops, of which there must be 2. Alex Muller's view at the moment is of the back of the GT2 pole sitter, Matthias Russo, the AF sort of surrogate team, Pecom Racing, taking their first pole position since San Luis last November, and Matthias Russo delighted with that. Clearly, he's attributed some of his success to picking up a lot of information about driving, particularly here, I think, from Jimmy Bruni, and over the season learning a great deal from him as the cars line up 2 by 2, ready for the start.
Back in grid formation, and this is the monster drop down the hill and into this long right-hander that everybody is going to find. Well, like all of the corners, they're difficult. A lot of them are off camber and invite you to run wide and deep. You may skate through and get away with it, but of course the eagle eye of the race director will be on you. Side by side, look at this bumping and boring on the grid. They're already trying to psych each other out. It is the Corvette in pole position on the far side, whose responsibility it is to keep us in grid order and at a steady speed as they approach the start. If he goes too fast, he'll get penalised, and he's holding them back now. Bang door handles all the way through that corner with Ruffier beside him, and now they're waiting for the lights to turn green. Round 6 is underway, and look at them racing from the back already. Enrique Benaldi got the hammer down well, but he's got a Corvette on either side of him. He's got Kumpen on one side, Ruffier tucks in behind him, Benaldi locks it up, and they come streaming through in single file. A little bit of business going on in GT2 there.
Yep, pincer movement there on the pole sitting car, and it's Martin Raginger who's come out on top for the moment, but round the outside, Andrew Cordy in the 55 CRS car looks to be trying to take the lead in the class if he can, but round the outside again comes 95 Matthias Russo getting back on terms.
So pole man leads it, but what a great start that was for the number 4 Corvette of Anthony Kumpen. That's exactly where he wants to be, isn't it?
3 wide round that hairpin, really shouldn't go, but somehow they made it. Nobody's yet tagged anybody else. Joining in at the back on the green lappers, there's more contact there between a pair of Ferraris, one of the CRS cars, one of the AF Corsa cars, I suspect, and it's 3 Corvettes and 3 Maseratis, 4 GT, and then this absolute nose-tail battle between Kumpen's been tipped out
going
of
so well.
Yep, just tipped himself out of the corner there. He'll have to play catch-up now with the weight on board that he's carrying, that won't be easy, and the three Maseratis, you know, are going to gang up together and not want to let any white and yellow Corvette pass them.
That's such a shame, and that's exactly what we were talking about. These braking points on these crests into the corners are by far the most difficult part of this circuit. And now, as Graham says, the Maseratis have got a solid block nose to tail, and they are not going to make life easy for Anthony Kumpen, who goes over the line in 6th place, 7th place. He fell to from 2nd, so he went up from a good 4th on the grid, was it, to 2nd, and now he's back down to 7th, and he's got, apart from the 4GT, he's got everybody in front of him in a Maserati that he doesn't want.
GT2 battle there, being joined by the number 11 car, Stefan Lemaire, the Celine of Grand National Motorsport Full Speed Racing, starting at the back of the field after horrendous time during pre-qualifying, where they lost their gearbox and did a rebuild overnight to 4 AM. Tim Sugden starts a track speed car. They had their problems as well, not really getting to grips, literally getting to grips, and at the moment propping up the rest of the field.
Another lock up at the tail end of the field, and that was the 78 car, I believe. Oh, and a spinner, and that is Collard, isn't it?
Yes, I think he got a little help with that one.
Both their championships have suddenly been adversely affected for the people in 2nd place. Hazeman bidding for championship lead in GT1, with Anthony Kumpen has seen his car spin back down to where it is now 7th, and Richard Westbrook watching in the pit lane will have seen Emmanuel Collard's little spin there as well, and that's going to put him right down at the tail end of the GT2 field. And how hotly contested was that in qualifying? How close was it in these opening couple of laps?
It's absolutely on fire, this GT2 battle this season. It's been like it all season long, not showing any signs of giving up now. Martin Ragginger holding a very slender advantage from Andrew Cordy. Jimmy Bruni up into 3rd in class. That'll suit them well. Marco Holzer in 4th place, having dropped 1 from his grid position of 3rd.
On board with a Yorkshire Terrier, and Tim Sugden over the crest. You see that these are the moments when you have to think about the braking points. Not on that corner, because you're flying out onto the start-finish straight. There are a couple of fairly long, tight-looking corners which are actually flat for the GT2 drivers, perhaps not for the GT1s, but that last corner is kind of a bit of a lift, just a confidence lift as you go through, because it's so hard to get it right. Look how close they are. Door handle in the pack. Marco Holzer got pushed back 1 place, but he's been shuffled back on the racetrack now, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's got caught up in the battle with Tim Mullen and Matthias Russo. Russo, the Class GT, Class to GT2 pole sitter, having already fallen down to 4th place, with Ragginger, Cordy and Bruni all fighting their way past him. Stefan Lemaire is making progress, as he should, in the GT1 car up through the field, and Tim Mullen is ahead of Marco Holzer as well. So all change in GT2. Up at the sharp end of things, it's still Xavier Marson from Ruffier and Muller setting fastest lap last time round in the first of the 3 Maseratis.
Here they come now, 1, 2, 3 Maseratis. Look behind, there's a yellow Corvette. Anthony Kumpen has found his way past Baz Linders quite easily, as we would have expected. And now he's got the unenviable task of trying to get past this lot. And we're not expecting them to be much help to him. Meanwhile, look at this. James Ruffier has suddenly grown in stature this weekend in Portugal, hasn't he? He's been a newcomer in the team at the beginning of the year, from GT3 as the GT3 champion, as they've all stepped up each year. Ruffier did it at the start of this year, and he found it a difficult step, as they all do. GT3 and a GT1 Corvette are just not the same thing, no matter what they look like on track. They are not the same. Difficult thing to adapt to. He's adapted, and look at him go now. 2nd in qualifying, 2nd on the racetrack, and he's beginning to annoy Xavier Masson.
Yep, and if he can make his way through and score a maximum for the team, that will delight Vitaphone no end. And his Corvette Maserati, those 3 all pulling away and carrying significantly less weight than the number 1 Bertolini car or the number 4 Kumpen car. Here's a replay of the start. See all the jinking going on. It's a long run down from that final corner to the start-finish line, and Benoldi had to hold them, and hold them well, in order to not be penalised at the start. Then they all from Benoldi.
All the way through there, and great start from the number 4, as we saw. Anthony Kumpen going up a place and getting into the thick of it. But now, because of this, he's having to fight his way back up, and that was not a typical one, but you can see he's just coming over a crest there, braking for the right-hander. Everybody knows that that is the difficult corner, and Anthony Kumpen's pirouette has cost him still those 4 places. He's 6th, and he was 2nd at the time. And Ruffier just getting very agitated now. I'm sure he thinks he can pass Xavier Masson, and I think he probably can.
Yeah, I would have. I'd be surprised if he's behind him for much longer.
Although, Graham, look who's behind him, Alex Muller, and Budapest Replay, get back in the queue.
Yeah, I think
thinking better of that one.
Muller is the fastest of this trio at the moment, the first man to break the 1:43 barrier with a 42.9 last time round. But he is now in that position where he's got to find a way past these two, and they are so evenly matched for pace. There's only a 3/10 gap from Martin de Ruffier across the line, and a further 10th back to Muller. They're all lapping within, you know, tenths of a second of each other, and to get past is very different from getting close.
There's a little bit of a gap there back to 4th place, which is Alex Pierguidi. Bertolini, and that's the car with the most ballast in the Maserati pit, is in 3rd place in the Maserati race, as you would expect, and I'm sure as they had predicted and anticipated. What they couldn't have anticipated, look at the switchback of this circuit, that's exactly what we've been talking about. Up again it goes. What they couldn't have anticipated is Anthony Kumpen having that little moment and sending himself to the back of the GT1 field for a while.
No, there must have been cries of anguish from Mike Hazelman down in the first of the pit garages, right down at pit out end, and squeals of delight, I should think, in the Vitaphone pits up at the far end.
Yes, if they'd been sticking pins in Anthony Kumpen dolls all morning, then that would be the result, wouldn't it?
Pretty much. I'm sure they'd rather do it fairly and squarely on the track than
don't miss a trick, do they? Vitaphone, they do everything.
Not sure they include voodoo in their black arts at the moment, but black arts they certainly possess, especially when it comes around to pit stop time. Magical things happen during Maserati pit stops, but for the moment it is Xavier Masson, unusually in the Sangari Corvette, because the Luc Alphand team not able to pitch up to the car here following a transporter fire with the car that they run not only in FIA GT but in the French National Championship, and they were on their way to a race at Albi when sadly the transporter caught fire. That was destroyed along with the car aboard, and they weren't able to bring a replacement car here this weekend. So Xavier Masson to defend that 3rd place, as trying to defend and unable to from Matthias Russo. It was Jimmy Bruni, that extra weight telling perhaps under braking, and Matthias Russo able to make his way back up. There's a spin for Andrew Coccordi. He won't be pleased with that, having done a cracking job to get himself up to 2nd place in class behind Martin Raging. Has just let it go now, and he's got to do all that work all over again.
We saw all this in qualifying and practice, and we said in the race you are going to see that happen all over again to other people, and we've already seen it, what, 3 times now, and it's just unfortunate that this track doesn't have the grip level that you expect. It catches drivers out, and I don't think we'll have seen the last of that, Graham, or the last effect it's going to have on the outcome of this race.
No, I suspect not, but the beneficiary is Matthias Russo, with Coccordi having spun and having passed Bruni, is now effectively up into 2nd place in class. There's the replay, and Martin Raging out of the head of this pack, but he'll lead one, because in fairness he's not quite as quick as the young Austrian driver Raginger.
Well, Coccordi's going to have to work hard if he wants to stay in the top 10 of Ferrari drivers, that's all I've got to say. He won't be pleased with that, he's his own worst critic, and he'll be very distressed to have lost such a prime position so early in the race. As you say, Bruni the beneficiary, and Russo, of course. And what have we got going on in GT1? Same old, Masson, Ruffier, Muller, Pierguidi, Bertolini, Kumpen still stuck in 6th. So this is the closest battle at the moment, or the one that looks most like a battle. There is the GT2 leader. Here comes 2nd place now. Matthias Russo overwhelmed at the start, and now weaving a little bit on that wide and long front straight, trying to keep Bruni behind him. And I presume that'll be Tim Mullen in the other CRS Ferrari, and behind that is the yellow and white Porsche Marco Holzer.
Slight change of tactics in the CRS lineup this weekend. Same drivers. We're expecting Tim Mullen to do a fairly long first stint, because they've realised, with Chris Niarchos's own words, it took them a while to twig that what they were doing was handing a car to Chris with, let's just break this for a moment because Alex Muller's looking very racy on the back of James Ruffier there, but not able to make a pass, under braking into that corner. Still turning fastest laps and improved his own last time through. To get back to the CRS story, the team have realised that what they were doing was handing the car over to Chris Niarchos, who is the gentleman driver in that car, filling it up with fuel but leaving it on. Old Alex Muller looks again at the back of Enrique Bernaldi's car, which means that Ruffier has made his way past and into the lead.
Thinking about it to follow through, but what a fine afternoon this has turned into for Ruffier in the SRT car. Only this morning during the warm-up we were saying this car hasn't really delivered on its potential, but here comes the moment, and it's a mistake by Masson. It's just another one of those crest of a hill moments, and you have to get out of the brakes and try and tiptoe through the corner, and you're not on the throttle. Through goes Ruffier, and you can see what bullet was. I'll have some of that as well, but
he's still thinking
how good a recovery was that from Masson. Got it back together, and he's still got him behind him, so well done Xavier Masson. Not so clever doing the lock-up in the first place, but everybody's going to have a share of that this afternoon.
Yeah, well done on James Ruffier on making his way through and not being distracted by the running wide of Enrique Bernaldi. Bernaldi has been the pace man in Corvettes since he joined the series, hasn't he?
Yes, I mean, born in the seat or what, really. So it is SRT Corvette from Sangari Team Brazil Corvette, and then it is our Maserati Parade, and then behind that is our championship contender. Now, it's not such a disaster for Anthony Kumpen and Mike Hazelman because they are 5 seconds behind their championship rival, and there's nothing between them, and we've only been racing for almost 15 minutes, so there's a long way to go, and it'd be easy enough to think that you could undo some of the damage in the remaining hour and 46 minutes, but nevertheless I'm sure that when he gets out of the car, Anthony Kumpen, if he doesn't kick himself, will lie down and let the rest of the team kick him, because he won't be pleased with that. But everybody, as we keep saying, everybody is vulnerable to that, and you will see more of it, I'm sure.
It's that 5-car battle in GT2 for second place. Martin Raginger firmly in command at the moment of the class. Matthias Russo, having got back up into a better position for himself, has started to open out a little bit of a gap over Jimmy Bruni. The heavier car of the championship leaders and championship defenders, indeed, AF Corsa, has cost them round here. All the elevation changes and the sharp corners mean that braking and then accelerating again is much harder work when you've got 100 kilos of ballast aboard. But for the moment, fighting off Tim Mullen, Marco Holzer watching behind in his board.
Number 2. Alex Muller, always fun to watch in this car. He had a very rare and uncharacteristic moment of overexcitement in Budapest. Saw a gap that really wasn't there and paid the price by being pushed back down the grid, but he's moved back up into 3rd spot, so it's taken him 15 minutes to sort of overcome the penalty of that.
Fastest race lap now to Anthony Kumpen, recovering from his moment of over-exuberance and towing up onto the back of Andrea Bertolini. That'll be a battle to watch when they get back time. Xavier will be able to hold off Alex Muller for the time being.
And so it'll be interesting when he gets up to Bertolini or in front of him. Does get past Bertolini, great for the championship, but then he's got the deal with Alex Pierchini and then this man here, Alex Muller, to join the Corvette parade at the front. It's been a complete reversal, actually, hasn't it, of what we saw in practice when it was all Maserati, and now in qualifying and again in racing, it's looking very Corvette-y, this circuit.
It is for the moment, and some of that is down to ballast, of course, because Ruffier and Marston's cars neither are carrying any significant weight with them this weekend. And here's the proof of the pudding. They're up at the sharp end of things with Alex Muller's car hanging on at the moment in the 3rd place, and last time round the fastest of that trio.
A little bit of door handling going on there in the GT2 field, and that was Marco Holzer and was it Malicelli? They've been doing that for quite a while now. And I think that one will run and run. These are the other 2 Maseratis that Kumpen has got to get past, and he's got an hour and a quarter, 3/4 to do it. Bertolini will resist.
Oh yes, stoutly, but fairly. And both he and Michael Bartels have sort of got half a handle on the title, as long as they can stay ahead of the number 4 Corvette. That's their aim. They don't necessarily need to win this race. In fact, in some ways it would pay them not to, because that would mean further penalty ballast to carry to our next round at Paul Ricard. But here he is, towing past Alessandro Pierguidi. So Pierguidi can now do the holding manoeuvre when Kumpen arrives.
If he lets him go, yes, he does.
Yeah, and Bertolini can head off into the sunset with a good points margin between himself and the yellow and white Corvette, which is the only one that they seriously have to concern themselves with.
And of course, he's now got one of his own team riding shotgun. So,
yep.
Without a championship at stake, Alessandro Pierguidi is unlikely to give ground to Anthony Kumpen if it comes to a blinking competition to see who blinks first, is he?
James Ruffier doing a good job at the head of the field, which is perhaps unfamiliar territory for him in a GT1 car. Knew all about it in GT3 last season, but at this level it's a different prospect, and making the jump from GT3 to GT1 rather than to GT2 is a significant one in terms of not only performance and speed, but the way the cars behave under brakes as well. Everything is very, very different in these sort of supercars.
So where are we? Coming up to a minute and 41 seconds remaining, which means we are nearly 20 minutes into this race. We'd expect pit stops for most people to pop up at about an hour. They have to spend 35 minutes in the driving seat, minimum continuous time. And the plan for most teams will be fill the car full of fuel, send it out on its qualifying tyres, run it till it goes dry, bring it in, change drivers, run it until near the end, bring it in again, change drivers and splash some fuel in, and away you go. But the car in the middle of this sandwich has got another plan altogether, because it has 3 drivers. So we're not quite sure where the pit stop windows are going to occur for the car in the middle of this queue.
Yeah.
So Masson, DKR and Sangari, Team Brazil, have got some thinking to do.
Yes, and all we know is that each driver must occupy the seat for a minimum 35 minutes, which leaves 15 spare of the 120 of our scheduled race length. And so they've got some thinking to do as to, presumably they'll leave Pinoldi to the end and put him in for the longest session.
"20 minutes into round 6 then. It's Ruffier in the black and white SRT Corvette, from Masson in the green and yellow Sangari Team Brazil Corvette with Alex Muller behind, and you've just seen the GT2 leader Martin Raginger drop out of the bottom of your picture. Here comes what was the pole man, now back up to second place after a little bit of a bungled start, or a busy start, shall we say, for Matthias Russo. This is good news in third place for Bruni and Wielander, because look, behind them, Mullen, Malucelli, Holzer, Colcaldi recovering after a spin, Nicky Kadei, Tim Sugden, and then Emmanuel Collard also recovering after a spin in the battle for the championship, 2 points behind Bruni and Wielander on the leaderboard, but at the moment 7 places behind on track, and quite a lot of time as well.
A lot of time behind, and Manu's only just made his way past Diego Romanini in the second of the 2 BMS Scuderia cars, and Romanini with a new teammate this weekend, Ettore Bonaldi, as opposed to Enrique Bernaldi. Try and keep those two separate from you. And Ettore joining the BMS team for this race and the next one in the south of France. In the meantime, Marco Holzer trying to make up time on Matteo Malucelli, but unable to do so just at the moment. Here we are back at the front of things, and again the battle is joined between Xavier Marson in his seat in the Sangari car and James Ruffier, who set his best lap in the 42s, which has now been matched by others, but not, interestingly, by Xavier Marson, yet to break that barrier.
Watching that number 2 car there of Muller in third place, and we're with him now. Watch the front end of this thing chop about. There are places, look, there it goes again. There are a couple of places on this circuit where we've got some undulations in the tarmac, and this car particularly takes them very badly indeed. It had a fault, an incorrect suspension component fitted after the shunt at Budapest. Oh, and up the inside goes Masson. Ruffier on the brakes, he's pushed him wide. Masson takes the lead and runs away down the hill. Muller wants to go through as well, but Xavier Masson had been sat there dreaming about that. He's banged the side of the car though. There's smoke on the left front side of the green and yellow Corvette. It's still smoking, and that is not, oh dear, that is going to either burn away the bodywork or pop the tyre.
Yep, that's the inner wheel arch that's dropped down as a result of that contact between himself and Ruffier on the pass. Be interesting to see if it does recover. May have got away with it.
Well, Ruffier is having a go back, and he's hoping that it will distract Masson, but look, you can see it's already burnt away. Here comes Muller, though, thinking while Ruffier is trying to get past the Corvette, I'll have a handful of no, not going to work. That end of that front straight, going into that first corner, as we expected, is the classic overtaking place. But Xavier Masson invented a brand new one up at the front there, didn't they?
And what that little moment has done is bring us a 5-car battle for the lead, effectively. 5 cars in line astern, all the way down to Alessandro Pierguidi, who's tucked right up again on the back of his teammate and leader Andrea Bertolini, and Kumpen still some 13 seconds adrift of this battle. Here's a replay. Down the inside, Ruffier runs a little bit wide.
He gave that one away, didn't he?
Yeah, but you know, there was a question of whether Marson was almost using Ruffier's car as a brake on the inside, locked up before there was any contact. There's a lock-up from Xavier Masson, and then he pays the price with that damage to the wheel arch on the left front of the Corvette.
I'm not sure that Ruffier didn't just get the braking a little bit wrong and run a bit deeper than he was planning to, and left the door open for Xavier Masson, and he tried to close it again. And I think if you look at that, they were side by side, and it was track position and corner in possession of the number 8 car very firmly.
Oh yes, once you're that far up the inside, there's not much question of what's going to happen. It's just how it's going to happen, and how it happened was with a little bit of door handling. We saw that at the very opening corner, even before the green lights had been given, that they were already in contact. Alex Muller flashing the headlights on the Maserati to try and distract James Ruffier and let him know that he wants past. James Ruffier knows that perfectly well, and he's not about to give any hints or help to Alex Muller in his chase.
Muller is in 3rd place, Bertolini 4th, Pierguidi, and then Kumpen, no change there. And the Muller obviously anxious to show that what happened in Budapest was just a momentary piece of inattention. As we said, it was uncharacteristic in the extreme, and he's looking to make up for it now. And
getting it back, taking a clean line down here. So is this going to leave the door open for Muller as well? Can he get the power down? The Corvette's got a mighty amount of it, but so is the Maserati. They're side by side. They're going to come up to a right-hander next to the inside line. Will fall back to Xavier Masson. The 3 Maseratis line up in line astern, almost as though taking turns to have a pop at the 2 Corvettes ahead.
Look at the Corvette in the background, though, and it's a long way back to Anthony Kumpen. He's 13 seconds off this battle for the lead between the top 5 cars, 3 Maseratis and 2 Corvettes. And that's really not a good place for that number 4 to be. It fell off 2nd place, and now it's dropping away from this battle. Here comes Muller again. He keeps trying to get through past, and it's just not happening for him. He might have it now. They are side by side again. Now he's looking to the other side of the track, and Alex Muller, as creative and aggressive and exciting as we've always seen him to be, but he just can't find a way past this Corvette. But look in the distance, Ruffier's gone, hasn't he? If you look at it on the onboard camera, he's away and up the road.
The camera tends to foreshorten things. The gap in reality is, however, 1.3 seconds and more. Muller tucked right up under the back of the Corvette, looking for the inside line again, able to hold a slightly tighter line through, and can he make it stick? No, he can't. Again, the Corvette able to hold the line tightly enough to deny Muller a way through.
There's some bits and pieces flapping about on that Corvette, and remember, it's had a slap with Ruffier in the number 3 car. That might be a problem for Masson. It might be distracting him, and he might have to drive round it, but he's certainly got more to think about than Alex Muller, who has now got Bertolini in the number 1 car, the team leader, championship leader, and all the rest of it, has got past Pierre Guidi, as we saw, and is now looking to get past Alex Muller, because that's what he really wants, is to get as many points over the number 4 car as he can.
Yeah, if he can make his way past a couple more and get a bit of a gap between the two of them, as we watch a replay of the change of the lead there, and the corner almost undefended by Xavier Martin. Not quite sure what happened there. It's almost as though he lost concentration for a second, and ended up almost losing that second place as well. But back in the GT2 battle, it's all as was pretty much, but the gaps are opening out slightly. Tim Mullen still clinging on to the back of Jimmy Bruni, half a second back there. Marco Holzer behind in the Porsche, not able to make any impression on the cars ahead of them. The class still handsomely led by Martin Ragginger with a 6-second gap over Matthias Russo, who was the pole sitter. This is the battle then for 3rd in GT2.
There goes Russo under the bottom of your picture. Here is Bruni, there is Mullen, Holzer, and behind that Malucelli in the 77 BMS Scuderia Italia car. Bruni, of course, with Vilander leading the GT2 championship. That's what it's all about. And Collard has still only managed to pick off Diego Romanini at the back of the field, and is still 3.5 seconds away from closing with Tim Sugden. That was a really costly spin, wasn't it?
Isn't it? I think that's cost them hugely. That one little error has cost the Pro Speed Porsche team, Collard and Richard Westbrook, very dearly indeed.
Well, if you remember last time we raced in Budapest, they got sent to the back of the grid for a scrutineering infringement and fought their way back to the point where they were actually in contention for the last 2 or 3 laps and took the lead and won the race with a last lap pass. So don't write them off, but this is a different circuit altogether.
Yes, and they don't seem to be able to bring the outright pace out of the car that they need. Everybody pretty much circulating in either 47s or 48s, and there's no improvement that Collard can make on that. Here is the class leader. That is the gap back to 2nd with Matthias Russo.
Well, you did say it could be a Brixia weekend, and at the moment that's exactly what's happening in GT2. The Brixia Porsche number 97 leads it, and this little battle has been a feature in the last couple of races. Mullen and the AF Corsa car we've seen chasing each other around a couple of weekends, and we're back with Alex Muller now, and he's still stuck behind this Corvette.
How fed up will he be getting of that view of the back of the Marson number 8 Corvette?
And he can't pull along, can he? He can't get beside it on the front straight. He can only think about a late braking manoeuvre, and he's going to be wary of that, whatever you say. After Budapest, he is going to be thinking twice about all of those, and I'm not sure that Bertolini behind him has actually got the outright pace to get past. Would need, I think, cooperation from Muller to get through.
I don't think that he would actually want to at the moment. I suspect as long as he's a couple of places ahead of Kumpen, that'll be fine. If Muller can make his way past Marston, then Bertolini will follow him if he possibly can, but I don't think at the moment it would serve Bertolini Bartels to score too many points. The more points they score, the more weight they gain next time round, and they're already toting around 100 kilos or so, and if they have to go up to 125 when they get to Paul Ricard, that's going to be mighty difficult. But the more cars they can keep between themselves and the number 4 car, that's the key for their race.
Muller, on the other hand, just wants past and still hasn't worked out how to do it.
Yeah. Mighty impressive, those Materatis Lima Stone, aren't they? They're a great sight. Beautiful machines.
And there he goes, on the inside, that's it. Muller through. He's done it at last in that little left-hand hairpin, and away he goes. He's been thinking about that. He's been looking all over the place. He got very aggressive then. It almost seemed as if he'd given up hope, and I think he might just have sold Xavier Masson, the dummy, let him think he was letting the tyres recover and get their breath back, and all of a sudden, woof, he pounced. And now he's got in front of him just the number 3, the race leader, James Ruffier, who's catching up with tail enders. Here we are on board at that moment, and I think that was just a little mistake for Masson there, because Muller, I don't think invented that one. I think he was having a rest, and he just saw an opportunity suddenly appear as the other Corvette ran wide, dived through, up into second place. Now what does he want to do? Catch James Ruffier, who's a couple of seconds up the road. Pit stop for Andy Cicaldi, but then probably got very squarish tyres.
Yes, he did have that early spin, didn't he? So no benefit in staying out. Lappery now going on. The quicker GT1 cars getting into the back of the GT2 field.
Had half an hour of racing, and that's about average for most circuits for the catch-up, isn't it?
Being told that Tim Mullen has had a little spin as well, so that will have blunted his charge on the back of Jimmy Bruni, unfortunately. And currently just lost two places to Marco Holzer and Matteo Malagelli. So Tim Mullen not having the best of it either. Here's the overall lead battle though, ploughing down that hill, and already Alex Muller closing up on the back of James Ruffier's Corvette. And
Muller, we say, in a big hurry to dress the balance after Budapest, repay the team in the best way he can by giving them a checkered flag to make up for it. That's exactly what's on his mind now. And James Ruffier, we've said he has come on strong, and then now his reward for doing that is to be in the thick of this battle. Muller, Masson, Bertolini, Pierguidi, and then Ruffier has dropped right back. What's that about? He's onto the pit lane. James Ruffier, I was looking for him on the pit straight and he wasn't there, and that's why he has dived into pit lane after half an hour. That's a very early pit stop, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I'll hand over to Bert Longin, maybe feeling that he's had his best out of that, as Muller pulling away from the number 8 car, Xavier Masson not able to stay with him, and Andrea Bertolini tucking up underneath.
So the first of the scheduled stops, at least we hope it is, for Ruffier out of the car, and tyre change.
Yeah, they were conserving tyres this morning in the warm-up. They used a very old set of tyres, and this isn't all going to plan, is it?
No, it's not. There shouldn't be all this shouting, and it should be a lot. They've got the wrong tyre at the front right there, and that's added 10 seconds to their pit stop duration, and that's really quite tragic when Ruffier has been driving so well and it's all being given away. Race controller investigating incidents between 51 and 60 and 51 and 55, so that will be interesting. And so will this, because this at the front is the battle for the lead in GT1, and instead of 2 Corvettes, there's only 1. Our pit stop window has opened, really, and we've seen 2 cars in pit lane. One of them, Andrew Cicaldi, in the CRS Ferrari, and the other one, as you may have noticed, the number 3 SRT Corvette, which was there, driven by James Ruffier, and is now over there, driven by Bert Longin. And meanwhile, Xavier Masson has got back in. No, he hasn't. Muller's away up the road. There he goes. There is Masson in second place. Here comes third place. That's Bertolini. Behind him, fourth place. That is Alessandro Pierguidi. 10 seconds now behind is Anthony Kumpen. He is busy carving a second a lap out of what was close to 14-second gap a while ago, and is now 10. So he is doing the necessary, but it's going to take a long time.
Yep, Alex Muller coming up to deal with GT2 traffic, and that traffic includes Manu Collar, who is still woefully down the field for him, coming up closer now to Tim Sugden in the first of those 2 white Porsches. That'll be his next target to acquire, and should pass him with relative ease, but the performance around here is not so easy, and Tim Sugden tucking right in on the back of Alex Muller to demonstrate that in the slower parts of the circuit, the GT2 cars are pretty much on a pace with the bigger GT1s, who only really stretch their legs when the circuit opens out again. This traffic situation could play either into Xavier Masson's hands or into Andrea Bertolini's. all depends on where you catch people.
And it hasn't really helped.
That's Marson into pit lane.
And there it is, just at the top of the picture. There was a Ferrari in front of him. It's the 51 car.
Yep,
Nicky Cadet. There is Masson. That's his seat time over. They've got 3 drivers. He's out of the car now and hands it over either to Roberto Streit or Enrique Bernaldi. And we'll see which is. There is Alvaro Barber Lopez with the Spanish flag crash helmet getting into the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari. And who is that being strapped down inside there?
Was due to be, I think, on rotation Roberto Streit. That was what the team were talking about earlier.
It is.
And hopefully this will be a rather slicker stop for tyres than we saw from the, uncharacteristically it must be said, from the SRT team. Patrick Sellesla's team, they're normally very proficient. DKR Engineering have been helping out the, and away he goes, have been helping out the Celine team next door to them with gearbox internals to allow them into the race at all.
As I understand it, everyone's helped them out with bits of gearbox, and they have officially got a Bitzer in the back
box. Yes.
haven't they? Bits of all kinds of cars. Back out on track, this is where it starts to get challenging because the pit stops are happening out of sync, and you have to bear in mind that our leaderboard reflects that. You're advised and recommended to go to mstworld.com, where you will see the timing screen that we're looking at, and you'll be able to see from that who has been into the pit lane for a stop and who hasn't, and you will then be able to work out, as we do, who's going to lose a minute shortly and who isn't.
Yeah, Xavier Marston's pit lane time we were shown there for a full stop with fuel, tyres and driver change just a couple of seconds over the minute. And so that's the target you need to be beating.
And there is Collard's pass on Tim Sugden. He's got it down to a second at the end of the previous lap, and now he's passed, moves up 1 place, but he is still now a good couple of seconds behind his next target, which will be the 55 CRS car of Tim Mullen. As we look at, again, that number 2 Maserati chops much worse than the other 2 down there. Had a faulty suspension component, as we were saying. They've replaced it, but it still looks very severe at the front by comparison to the other 2. Here we are on board with Alex Piacchidi.
Anthony Kumpen doing good work in that number 4 Corvette. Anytime soon we're going to have to start thinking about that from the driving seat of this 33 Maserati, because it's going to be looming large in the mirrors. The gap now less than 5 seconds from 3rd to 4th. But Longin straight into his stride with the fastest sector of all in sector 2 for the race so far.
And as we've said before, it's quite easy to put in good sector times, but it's really difficult to string fast laps together consistently. It's a very challenging circuit.
The number 51 car that was under investigation, we saw coming in for a driver change. Alvaro Barber Lopez, however, is going to have to come in again because Nicky Cadet has been assessed with a drive-through penalty, which Barber will now have to serve.
Yes, that happened out of our sight, so we're not quite sure what happened. But we know there was a certain amount of door handling going on in GT2 in the first 2-3 laps, wasn't there?
Yep, Bert Longin carrying on where James Ruffier left off with a fastest race lap, taking the time down to 42.6. This is the championship leader, however, Andrea Bertolini, sitting very pretty in 2nd place with his teammate Alex Muller stretching out a bit of a lead to 4.4 seconds, and Pierre Guidi, as you said earlier, riding shotgun behind, ready to protect his master from Anthony Kumpen.
As you saw, that's the championship leader. That's Bruni in pit lane, handing over to Tony Vielander. But we were just watching on track there, and you saw very clearly that the Maserati was stuck behind the GT2 Ferrari, and I mean stuck. And it's a huge wide circuit, but the lines are quite specific and a little bit deceptive, and there just aren't the overtaking opportunities that there normally would appear to be. What's going on here? Why isn't it starting? This is not right. Why are they waiting? What was on the floor there that concerned them? Was he just stuck on the hose? I'm not entirely sure, but that delayed them by 5 or 6 seconds, didn't it?
Yes, that's all work they'll have to do again, which they won't be too impressed with, I'm sure. That means our GT2 category, currently headed by Martin Ragginger with Matthias Russo in 2nd. Marco Holzer will inherit 3rd place as a result of that AF Corsa pit stop. here on the move is Bert Longin.
Fastest race lap, as you saw on your caption, and he is now into 8th place with a pit stop in his pocket. He and the number 8 Corvette, handled by Roberto Streit at the moment, who's just in front of him by some 10 or 12 seconds, are our only GT1 stoppers so far. There's a bit more business going on in the pit lane at the GT2 end of the field, and we've got 4 or 5 stoppers there. But we're still quite early. As we said, normally we'd expect them to run quite as long as they could in the first hour of the race, and some of those early stops were quite surprising, except for the number 8, because they didn't have a choice. They've just got to keep stopping, haven't they?
Yep, things settling down somewhat, though. Alex Muller still stretching the lead. It was 4.4 last time we spoke of it, now it's 5.5, so just gradually easing away. And how popular would it be if when Muller hands over the car, he's in the lead, because he's handing over to Portuguese driver Miguel Ramos. That might just bring the grandstands to life.
Yes, I think there's a good few thousand people out there in the sunshine, as you can see, and this circuit, although it's very big Formula One style, it's built in a bowl. It's been excavated into a hole in the ground, and lots of the spectator positions around the circuit give you fantastic views of the racing. So you get to see the whole picture, you get to see the cars in action far away, and of course you get your own up close and personal moment when they pass wherever you are. And a lot of spectators have chosen high vantage points so they can see the race developing. And there again, look at it, stuck behind a GT2 car with no opportunity to get past. There's your race number, where is he now? 8, Bert Longin is in 8th place.
And Martin Ragging are putting laps onto others in the GT2 category now. That will please him no end. We hope Luigi Lucchini will be able to... Oh, there's a big lock-up. There's a problem there for the Maserati. Now, what's that all about? It's a puncture.
Well, that is not good news for the championship leaders, because that happened almost as they drove past the pit lane exit. So they're now going to cover the best part of 5 kilometres, 3.5 miles, on a flat tyre. We've seen this happen in free practice with Alex Muller, and no, it was Miguel Ramos in the car, was it? Or I can't remember now. But anyway, they managed to get it back all the best part of half a lap, didn't they?
Tell a lie, it was just Alessandro Pierguidi in the 33 car who nursed it home beautifully. Now
but that's coming off the rim, isn't it?
This is where it gets difficult, because you've got to make this delicate call between how quickly you can get round. And I think Bertolini's maybe overdoing it a bit. He needs to be careful that that carcass doesn't just start to flay around inside the wheel arch and cause more damage to everything that's underneath there, and indeed rip the bodywork off.
All those bits flying off, the posh tyre manufacturer word for that is delaminating. That's what it's doing in tyre manufacturer speak, but as you can see, it just means falling apart at the seams. And as Graham says, what it will do is whip everything under the wheel arch with sort of 100-mile-an-hour bits of rubber. And I think Bertolini has, he must have been listening, Graham, because I think he's backed off a little bit.
And this too is going to cause them to force them, if you like, into their strategy for the rest of the afternoon. Michael Bartels must now take over at this point. So there he is, ready to do so.
That will drop them down the order. Whatever else happens, they have lost a lap at least, probably 2. And that means that the GT1 Championship has now swung very definitely towards the number 4 duo. So although Mike Hazeman, watching Anthony Kumpen spin out at the beginning of the race, will be crying then, he's probably cheering now.
He probably is, because he's Anthony Kumpen's now the one in pit lane. Mike Hazeman's, and unseen by us because we were concentrating on this number 1 car, Mike Hazeman's has taken over the 4 Corvette. Bertolini's still limping round.
He's nearly there. He's going to get that back. The other thing about this is that you don't want to drive too slowly. What you want is to keep the car up on its four-wheel posture if you can, yes. And if you go too slow, it just squats back down and does even more. But there you are, pit lane beckons, and a fine job of work, in fact, from Bertolini. But then you'd expect nothing else from him, would you?
Exactly so, and everything seems to have pretty much held together. It looks as though there was a bit of a crack in the rear body work. We can have a look at that perhaps when we get to the pit stop itself. But in the meantime, the order now shows Mike Hazelman's down in going to be 7th place after his pit stop, but Bertolini's now got to serve his, and in the midst of all that, Roberto Streit is continuing his march back up the leaderboard as well.
So, drama indeed, with an hour and a quarter more or less still remaining. There's a lot of racing ahead of us this afternoon. Big long fill as you would, and these will probably be the last set of decent tyres that are knocking about in that garage, and this is an important, as Graham said, strategic moment for the team. They're checking for damage, of course, but this has thrown their strategic plan completely off schedule, and they now have to rethink it. And the official there pointing out the damage. The bodywork is dangling. That's a dangly bit of bodywork, isn't it? There's a join there that's normally clipped on, and it's unclipped at the moment. And I'm not sure whether they might not get a black flag for that. If the race officials decide that's dangerously loose, they might yet have to come back and bring out the 200-mile-an-hour tape.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And that's again longish stop, 118. Andrea Bertolini explaining what happened to the understandably concerned Michelin technician.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not loud enough for us to hear, so no way of knowing. But there's been a fair bit of racing on track, and we've seen a couple of punctures. And we've seen a couple of notices at the bottom of the screen saying drive-through penalty, car number. And also the ones that say debris on track at turn 2, 3, whatever. So there are some carbon bits out there, and that's probably the most likely candidate for what happened to that car.
Mike Hazelman's has taken heart from that. It's a set of 42.5, race's fastest lap.
Yes,
and he will now be chuckling in his crash helmet, I'm sure.
He needs to hammer this advantage home now, doesn't he? If he can really put some time on the #1 car while it's behind him on the racetrack and on the timing screen, then he will indeed have done his job.
Well, he's paired with Anthony Kumpen, and it's Kumpen's former teammate from last season, Bert Longin, in the #3 car, who sits between Hazelman's and the returning #1 car, now of course in the hands of Michael Bartels. But also through and in to fill that gap is Martin Ragginger, pursued by Matthias Russo and Marco Holzer, who's the man on the move in GT2.
That's a shame, Graham.
Yeah, it's this is, I think, going to be gearbox
yes,
oil
it is,
going in.
Quite a lot of it. In fact, litres of the stuff being poured in.
No, that's engine oil, isn't it, in that position, I think. Gearbox oil, I think, goes in a little. Oh, no, maybe not. No, that's where they were filling it up this morning in the pit lane. They were putting sealant around a joint where they'd rebuilt the gearbox, and I suspect something didn't quite mate up properly. Stefan Lemeray was at the wheel. Didn't see a driver change.
Could be Stefan Lemeray still in this car. Either way, the Full Speed Racing Celine has got more gearbox problems, we suspect, and is getting an oil fill as well as a pit stop. And of course, that's not part of the plan, but they have been struggling with it all weekend. Someone who isn't struggling at all is our GT2 leader, Martin Ragginger, doing again what we have seen him do a couple of times since he arrived in this championship 3 races ago. And he's been quite an eye-opener, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's a very bright young man and a very bright prospect for a Porsche factory drive, I think, for many years to come. Brought with him Luigi Lucchini, and Brixia, of course, no strangers, a team sort of run by BMS Scuderia Italia, as in comes Ragginger to pit lane from the lead in GT2, which will now be inherited unless he follows by Matthias Russo in the 95 Pecom car, and there he goes through and effectively into the lead. Luke Hines' name has now popped up next to number 11, so there was a driver change in the Celine that we saw having that oil added.
4 tyres waiting. He's run a little bit deep. One of the tyres getting away there, and somebody's fielding it for them. And as you can see, while the car is being refueled and the Porsches do it at the front, no one else in the team is allowed to touch the car except for the outgoing driver, who can help the incoming driver strap himself down. Up on the jacks now as the refueling is finished. And again, only 4 people touching the car, so it's not that Formula One ballet thing where millions of people throw wheels in the air and all of a sudden it's gone. It takes time, it takes rehearsal. Any second that you can save doing that is worth saving. What's happening here with Mike Hazeman, you said he was coming on strong, and that is 3rd place, nicked from Roberto Streit at the end of the main straight. So Mike Hazeman, who was 0.2 of a second behind him, place that he's gained there, isn't it?
Went straight past Streit on the straight, as you might say.
Oh no.
Or might not. We'll have another look at that hopefully at some point.
On that number 8, there's definitely a little bit of flappy bonnet.
Gap.
Yes. It has had a slap, remember, with Ruffier in number 3. And he might be losing a bit of bodywork. But let's have a look. See, there it is. You can see the bonnet flapping about. There's no doubt that Streit will be distracted by that, and there's no doubt either that Mike Hazeman is on hand at this, and that's just exactly how to do it, okay? Here you are, young man. This is how you do the overtaking, and that's how he... Oh, look, he's poked that very hard up the back, and that is Baz Linders, is it?
Yes, it is.
In the number 40. And helped him round the corner. Roberto Streit, young Brazilian driver, has been, what should we say, a colourful addition to the pit lane, hasn't he?
That's a good word. That's a good word.
He hit that not quite as hard as he hit the barrier at Radion in Spa, fortunately, but nevertheless, he is quite a busy young man sometimes on track. Pig Eady is out of the car now, I presume.
From 2nd place.
And Matteo Bobby will take over. Where is the number 1? 8th place now on track as Matteo Bobby leaves the pit lane. Michael Bartels in the number 1 Maserati is in 8th place, but how much time behind the race leaders will he be now?
Well, he's got Matthias Russo ahead of him, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. The 33 car rejoins immediately behind Roberto Streit. Baz Linders will also slide by as the car already up to speed, of course, on track. He might be interested to have a word with Roberto Streit at some point before the end of the afternoon.
Yes, it would be interesting to know what that was all about, but as you can see, the car fresh from the pits, fresh tyres, fresh driver, not quite as quick as somebody banging down that front straight at 220, 240 kilometres an hour. And the net result was that the Ford GT was quicker through the corner as it came in carrying lots more speed, and the Maserati was still accelerating. Baz Linders will probably be very pleased that he's still going. And Marco Holzer, is he still in the 61 car? No, it's Daryl O'Young, has just sneaked past the 97 of Luigi Lucchini. The young guns are Lucchini and Raginger. Daryl O'Young's been around a little bit longer, doesn't need a note from his mother to come racing, does he, like the other two? Have to have a note to say it's all right, because they are, both of them, very young. And in fact, Raginger, as we keep reminding you, GT's youngest ever pole sitter. And
Lucchini is going to have to do the best he can to defend positions, I suspect, rather than attacking anybody. And he's going to lose another place to Tony Vilander, I suspect. The hugely, right now, the hugely experienced Finn in his AF Corsa car will just slide up the inside there. No serious defence offered by Lucchini. Probably none available. Mike Hazeman's makes it up to second place now, with pit stops going on all around. Just the car ahead of him, Alex Muller, yet to stop out of the leading GT1 group.
That's an interesting situation there, because Mike Hazeman is the effective race leader now when Muller makes his pit stop. But there is a big gap, isn't there, between Hazeman and Muller on the timing screen, as we've got a little bit more GT2 action going on here. And out of the pits comes the 95 car, and over the curbs is the 77 car of Paolo Ruberti. Muller's just gone into pit lane out of our sight, but that was a little bit aeronautical from Paolo Ruberti.
And this will be a very close call, I suspect, Richard, between whether the Maserati or the Corvette comes out of the pit entrance and into turn 1 first, because there was about a minute and 11 gap. We've seen stops of a minute and 2. So if Maserati Vitaphone people can work their magic and get this car turned around quickly, then we'll maybe not have a change of lead, and Maserati will have done it.
Well, and of course we'll have a Portuguese leader. This is racing for position. This is Roberto Streit being monstered almost in the corner there by Matteo Bobbi. And again, look at it, you can see it. The older, experienced drivers, this is the third time we've seen that. And it's, look, son, this is how you do it.
Round the outside, very nice job. Just proves how much confidence Matteo Bobbi has in this car, but unable to make it stick this time. It's just a bit too far round the outside on that long right-hander downhill, with the camber taking you out to the outside of the corner as well.
Roberto Streit was actually quite impressive there, because he refused to be bullied, didn't he? And he said, go on then if you can. Held on, stuck to his guns, and that was fairly firm stuff from the young Brazilian. And just have to wait for another corner before Matteo Bobbi stitches him up a treat, because it is going to happen.
Yes, Streit showing the pace there, right across the nose of Matteo Bobbi. Bobbi already knows his way around here, having been into a race with a previous visiting series earlier on in the season. He's going to get good drive out of this corner. If he does, side by side, he's got the inside line this time for the corner. Can he make it past before they swing right for the next one? No, he can't. Streit doing a great job here, as is Michael Bartels behind in putting together quick laps.
Well, Corvette Grunt is coming to the aid of young Roberto Streit here. I think it's fairly clear that Bobbi has got the manoeuvrability, the agility, and here he goes again, looking for room on the inside and finding it this time. But he's gone. This time he's just led him out to the outside of the track and stopped him getting on the accelerator pedal of the Corvette and breezing back past. And Baz Liners would like to have a try at that, but I don't think the Ford GT's got the same level of power as the Maserati. So good work from Matteo Bobbi, and good work also from Roberto Streit. Now then, here is the battle we were interested in. Mike Hazeman goes out of the bottom of your picture, the leader by 4.5 seconds from Miguel Ramos in number 2, and then comes Matteo Bobbi, Roberto Streit, and Roberto Streit tucked up underneath the rear wing, would like to have a go, but look, that bonnet is coming off, isn't it? It's lifting. They are going to be waving a black flag at him, because we've seen already in GT3 at Adria what a flying bonnet can do to the race when it blows up in the air and falls in front of the race leader. And little puffs of smoke from the back end of the Maserati keep doing that. It keeps worrying me, but it keeps not being a problem.
Yep, you can see the retaining clip bouncing around. It's wired on, but you can see it bouncing around on the bonnet there of the Corvette.
Let's have another look as the Maserati bounces down the straight, and there it is. It's a big lift that time, and it just wants a little bit of fiberglass to break on the other side of the bonnet, and that will be airborne as we go back to GT.
Lucchini's blotted his copybook, run out wide, probably just spending a little too long glancing in the mirrors to see who's coming up next. Missed his braking point altogether and went round it. Happily, it's one of those tracks with large runoff areas outside of the curbing, so no harm done, not gravel bound anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting. All our GT2 cars have made a stop, and here's a man who is no longer at the tail end of the field where the car was earlier, and after an hour of racing, Westbrook and Collard, who did the early stint, have moved up into 5th in GT2.
Yep, Hartley, and here they go again.
And this is a typical Westbrook manoeuvre, isn't it, as we saw in Budapest, just not braking until the last possible moment. As I heard it expressed in motorcycle racing by Kevin Schwantz once at Hockenheim, see God, then back off.
Yes. Here we are on board with Mike Hazeman, current race leader, some 6 seconds now up the road from Miguel Ramos, who's taken over from Alex Muller. We've got a 1.5 seconds quicker last time through for Hazeman's, and the gap has grown, as I say. Matteo Bobbi in 3rd place, so again we've got the Maseratis ganging up.
Well, we've still got half the race to go, but at the moment it's looking particularly fine if you are a fan of the PK Racing team. And I should say at this moment that, again, emails from Bert Longin's fan club saying go for it. Bert, he's doing well in 5th place at the moment.
Yes, and closing up on Roberto Strite too.
Hazeman, Ramos, Bobby, Strite, Longin. Bartels is 6th and he is 50 seconds behind Longin. That is Darrell O'Young. And as long as the engine's running, he'll carry on, so no real harm done for him. Except that he was, oh no, that is harm, isn't it?
Yes,
that's big harm, and that's why he's spun. That engine's gone pop, hasn't it, and dumped oil all over his back tyres. There's bits coming out underneath. Those Porsche flat sixes are virtually bulletproof, but I think that's one that they're going to have to put in the dustbin.
Yes, I think that might have seen its best, and if it is dropping anything from the back, everyone else will be benefiting from it.
Conrods, bearings, bits of timing chain,
oil. Yes, that's really got to be pulled over to one side, please, Darrell.
Yeah, off the racing line, please, with that one. It hasn't really grenaded properly, or there'd be more smoke and more oil, but he obviously knows that he's got a problem because all his dials will be saying 0. Here's the moment of truth, and that's the first inkling that he had that it is all going wrong, and now you can see the smoke coming, and that's what caused it. And as he pulled away from that corner, you can see the smoke really starting to get serious. A little bit of an oil fire as well. It's not very good at all, is it?
That's not a Rudy Pender's Porsche, is it? They don't do that, Rudy Pender's Porsches. They just run and run and run. Not today, however.
Oh no,
there we are.
Roberto Strite, isn't it? Or it was Roberto Strite, but he just looped that all by himself too early on the gas.
And was that because of something dropped on the circuit? That's my question. He's into a gravel bed, so he'll have to make sure he can keep the wheels spinning sufficiently to find his way back out again.
There are not many gravel traps on this circuit. That is one of the big ones, but he's managed to rumble off and carry on. A little bit bouncy on the way back. Stones all over the circuit. Nobody will be pleased about that. Indeed, look, lots of stones all over the circuit. It's another reason why no one likes gravel traps. But this team, with its 3 drivers, set itself a big challenge, and now it's got an even bigger one going on. The bonnet's hanging off. And the thing is, has Roberto Strite done 35 minutes in the car? Because if he hasn't, he shouldn't really want to be coming in, should he?
No, he'll have to stay in until that time is completed, and it can't be because we're not yet 70 minutes into the race. Examination of the back of the Porsche.
Not much to examine. There's big pools of stuff on the floor underneath it.
Picky, Richard, picky.
Bert
Longin, of course, benefiting from Roberto Strite's move. The safety car is out.
There must be oil, mustn't it, then?
I suspect there might be some tidying up to be done on the track following the detonation of the Porsche. At least we assume it's the engine that's let go. Not always so. But the safety car is out, and this will pinch the field up again. Mr. Bartels will say thank you.
Yes. Safety car has been invoked because of you saw Darrell O'Young spin. We saw the oil dripping out of the engine, and then Roberto Strite spun off, we think probably on the oil, but whatever happened, he left gravel all over the circuit. Here is the moment that, and that car, and yes, the Ferrari in front of him spun as well, didn't it? Yes.
That was what caught my eye for the first time I saw it, and prompted me to wonder if that was oil rather than Strite himself that was the problem.
But now, of course, he ploughs across one of the only gravel traps at the circuit of the Algarve, rejoins the circuit and decorates it liberally.
Redistributes the gravel trap all the way down the road.
Especially here, watch this bit, as he touches the brakes, it all comes rolling out of the chassis, and there's stones everywhere. They've invoked a safety car to treat the oil and also to clear the stones. Xavier Massen's there, getting quite agitated, and next to him is Enrique Benoldi, who will do the last stint. But there is our Wiesmann GT, our safety car, and as you can see, they're forming up behind. and we'll have to see where's he joined the train and what we're going to do about it.
Spectacular looking car, the V7, isn't it?
It is rather. I was looking at the leaderboard, which is now not quite so spectacular for Mike Hazeman as it was, because Michael Bartels was a good minute behind, and he's showing the green light to the cars behind, so it's a wave by for the GT2. Ferrari, the 51 car of Nicky Cadet. Past goes the Ford GT. There's the car he's looking for. That is the race leader. That's Mike Hazeman. So straight away he's got the right car, and that is retirement, as we suspected, for Darrell O'Young in the car, and that was Marco Holzer leaning in, commiserating. There was a lot of fluid dripping out of that on the circuit, and when it came back and into the pit lane, going to have a go at it, and Darrell O'Young staying in the cockpit, but that's not really, I don't think, got much chance of being successful.
No, they've not had the best of weekends, although qualifying went quite well. They had a problem in the free practice session Saturday morning when they had a gear selection problem. In has come 56. Now, that's the second stop, isn't it, for Rob Bell's car, shared with Andrew Kirkcaldy.
And that means that this car is now fueled and rubbered to the finish, and they've had that free pit stop behind the safety car effectively, and that's fine if your scheduling works that way, if your strategy works like that.
And if Rob Bell's done 35 minutes.
Well, Andrew Kirkcaldy started it, and they were early in the pits, but of course he is now going to do 35 minutes. So as long as Andrew Kirkcaldy stopped, and he was the first to stop, wasn't he?
Yes,
so,
if they left Rob Bell in.
No, Kirkcaldy stopped first. Rob Bell does the middle bit,
yes.
And we've done over now, so he's easily done 35 minutes.
Yep.
And now Andrew Kirkcaldy is going to drive it to the finish without stopping. So yes, that all works perfectly fine. I'll give myself a big tick now. Well done. And I'm not sure though how long we're going to see the safety car out on track, because we don't really know how much oil dropped out of the Pro Speed Porsche on its return to the pits. One thing we did say though is it was a bit too near the racing line for our liking.
Yes, absolutely, and not pulling over to the side quite as quickly as he might have wished. Maybe he wasn't getting help from the team to advise him that he needed to be doing that.
Well, let's just have a look. There is the cement being poured, and they're not helping that the wind's sprung up a bit, and a lot of it's blown away before it has a chance to become effective.
Yeah, stiffish breeze blowing here at the Algarve for most of the weekend.
And they're waving the cars off to one side, keeping away from the oil. Bernoldi's obviously going to get in at some point, but Strite's got to do his 35 minutes, so this is really not played into there. And while they're doing the cement, let me just say that it is still one of the most effective, if not the most effective ways of clearing an oil spill. It looks terribly old-fashioned and crude, but if you study the people who deal with those kind of things all the time and where it is the most important in drag racing, they still use cement, because all the other compounds and jet blowers and all the rest of it that have come and gone still can't match a bag of cement when it comes to soaking up oil.
In the Pro Speed garage here for a moment, we were treated to the sight of Manu Collard walking around. He may be somewhat concerned, I suppose, that the sister car has gone out with this failure. But in the excitement, what's happened, of course, is that the GT2 field has closed up in the same way that the GT1 has. And guess what? Richard Westbrook is now tucked up right behind Tony Vilander. 1
second behind him as they went rumbling past the pit lane just now. So our championship battles are between 50 and 60, and you really do need to look on mstworld.com at the live timing to see this for yourself. Vilander and Westbrook are in 9th and 10th places on the overall leaderboard, 2nd and 3rd in GT2. And our championship battle in GT1, Mike Hazeman leads after 38 laps and an hour and 10 minutes, but Michael Bartels in 6th place is now a lot closer than he was. He had a puncture, lost a minute, and that really has undone a lot of the damage that Vitaphone Maserati suffered with that puncture, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, thankfully for them. Mike Hazelman will be so frustrated.
Well, look, that's racing. First they did a great start and they were second. Then Anthony Compton spun and they were ninth. Then he had a fight back to about fourth. Mike Hazelman took over, and just as he was climbing up the field, the #1 car with Andrea Bertolini at the wheel had a puncture and went back to ninth. And now he is, with Michael Bartels the controls, in sixth spot. Hazelman is in first. Championship-wise, it couldn't really be a much prettier picture than that for Hazelman and Kumpen. They get 10 points, and what does Michael Bartels get for sixth place? 2.
Yes.
And the gap's 4 points. So you can see that that is a championship leading position for PK Racing, and they'll be very pleased about that, and they'll be very anxious about hanging on to it.
Yes, his frustration is only going to be, isn't it, that what he's lost is the gap of time that he had over the one car. And we've seen, Richard, both of us, time and time again over the season, how in final pit stops somehow the Maseratis magic their way back up the order again.
It's a fact that the Maserati pit stops are a little bit quicker than everybody else's. The Corvette drivers have to remove the steering wheel, which they can't do until after they've stopped, in order to get out, and that shows you just how tight it is in the cockpit there. And that's another reason the Maserati's got a very open, it's a racing car cockpit, and their roll cage has got a nice big gap to climb through, whereas the Corvette's got a small gap to be pulled through. So it's a very, it's almost a handicap in the pit stops, and the Maserati you're looking at there will stop faster, and they will stick that bonnet down on the #8 car. But Roberto Streit has got to stay in it for 35 minutes, and although this is an ideal moment for it to come in and do a pit stop and have that done for minimum loss of track time, Roberto Streit has got to stay in the seat. They've got another bonnet ready, but I'm not sure which bit's broken, whether it's the bonnet or whether it is the just the fixing pins which have come undone.
The pleasant side of all this for us, of course, is that it leaves us with the mouth-watering prospect of Enrique Bernoldi doing the final stint in a hurry, please, and having to play catch-up, because he will have a longish stop to either replace or repair the catch on that bonnet, which is flapping in the breeze, or was when the car was up to speed. Following behind the safety car, of course, it's not an issue.
We have got a message on our screen that says oil on track at turn 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So you can see that the Pro Speed Porsche went quite a long way chucking oil. Quite a long way after it went pot, and also I suspect not very far before it spun off. You can see where the cement dust is, and I think that's pretty much where it went bang, isn't it? It was, and then we saw it drive round here, smoking and quite clearly dribbling oil, but he did keep wide there, didn't he? Darrell O'Young, keep away from the racing line. But a lot of clearing up for our track workers to do, and then the officials have got to be satisfied that we're clear to go racing. But the oil had already caught out Roberto Streit and sent him looping, and there was a Ferrari in front of him that just about got away with it, just about got away with it. But of course what we're looking at now is time running out, and as the time runs out and the laps aren't, the cars are using less fuel, and their pit stop strategy windows are starting to become a little wider than they were. And if the safety car hangs around much longer, you'll start to see people who've only got one pit stop to their credit diving in to try and get the free one. This car in particular, we would expect, yes, and there you are, the first of them and the second. This is good. The team have obviously done their sums and figured out that Roberto Streit has now done his 35 minutes. And there in front is Bert Longin in the #3 car, and they're opting for a free stop. That's 51 in the background, is it not? Nicky Cadet at the controls of the AF Corsa car, I think. It's hard to see it so far back there in the picture, but here is the bonnet fixing stop.
Yes, it is, and while that's going on, a thought too for the CRS team, Enrico Cordi, having had that early stop that we saw, is the only one, or was until this little rash of stops, the only GT2 car to have made its second stop. They then rejoined in the queue, and everything is closed up again. We're going for the sticky option rather than the let's mend it option. That'll save a bit of time as long as it stays put.
That's all it needs, isn't it? Just all it needs. And that can be done while they're changing tyres. I don't think they've lost any extra time there. In fact, I'd say that was as good as they could have hoped for. And what we hoped for, of course, was that Enrique Bernoldi would take control of the car, and there he is, rumbling down pit lane as the race control tell us the safety car will be in at the end of this lap.
They really couldn't have timed that stop much better, could they?
No, they got that absolutely right. DKR, of course, know their business, don't they?
There will be those who are now going to be kicking themselves when they see the announcement that the safety car is due to come in, wishing they had dived into pit lane at the same time.
But if you haven't got your seat time for your middle driver, you've just got to sit it out. Yep. And there are probably people slashing their wrists in pit lanes when that sign came. I think we're just one lap away from the pit stop window, and no. Yeah. But it has changed the character of the race. It's a long time since we've had a big long safety car in a race. We've had lots and lots of dramas on this circuit. We said there was going to be dramas because of the nature of the circuit. What we couldn't have predicted is that oil down there, which looped that car there when Roberto Strike was driving it, and provoked the safety car, period. And now he's playing catch-up, isn't he? Bernoldi just trying to get on the back of the train. What he wants is to be as close to the back end of the field when the safety car goes in as possible.
Yes, that is the only thing that could have just improved their situation slightly, would have been if there had been one more safety car lap to enable them to get right back up onto the back of the queue.
But it is in, and we are racing. There's the green flag, and Mike Hayon under very much pressure at all, with two Maseratis breathing down his neck, which they weren't, and there's a little pass between them. That really was very naughty, wasn't it?
Yes, that was far too adjacent for comfort, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think Matteo Bobby backing back out of it eventually, but Miguel Ramos being not given the easiest of times into turn one that time round.
Well, Ramos in second place, Bobby in third, that's the way it stays, but that could so easily have been tears before bedtime for the two Maseratis. And again, you see that chopping at the front end of that number two. Here's the view from Bobby's screen. You can see his opportunity was enormous, but Miguel Ramos just didn't know he was going to do that, did he? Just didn't know.
No, didn't suspect, I think, probably. We'll have another look at it.
And he's alongside at the corner there, look, as Ramos turns in. And Matteo Bobby did him a bit of a favour, actually, didn't they? Let him have the corner back.
Yes, I think it was that or collide, and I wouldn't want to be on the rough end of Michael Bartel's tongue if they'd done that.
No, indeed. Hazeman, Ramos, Bobby, Bartels, Coupens and Langin, then Roberto Strike or Enrique Bernoldi as now is. And then it's our GT2 leader, Roberti Westbrook in second place, and Paolo Roberti only a little bit in front of Westbrook, obviously, so stand by for fireworks there.
Oh.
The Maseratis are racing for second place here. There's the race leader, and behind them is Miguel Ramos in the number two, and right behind him is Matteo Bobby in 33. Now, Bobby signalled this move to him at the restart, and now he's going to try it again, but this time Ramos has got it covered. He's up to speed, a little bit more aggressive on his braking, and kept Bobby in his place.
I wonder if it is that Matteo Bobby believes that he's quicker than Miguel Ramos, and if Ramos would let him past, he could put some pressure on Mike Hazeman's, maybe try and force him into an error.
And the number 8 car's just gone back in the pit lane, Graham.
It's been awarded a drive-through penalty. We don't know quite why, but has been ordered a drive-through, so he won't be stopping again. Just driving through on the 60 kph speed limit, which will feel horribly pedestrian, I'm sure, there again. But that's cost him more time, which means more red mist in front of Enrique Bernoldi. Those who are at the track with a nervous disposition, you might take a step back. Especially
considering that Richard Westbrook is at the moment 0.4 of a second behind the GT2 leader, and is looking for the first position and the big points haul, because his championship rival is about 7 places behind him, although we've got pit stops and all kinds of things to shake out, and here's something shaking out. Mike Hazelman is coming under pressure now, and so too is Miguel Ramos. I think Matteo Bobby does think he's quicker, and I think he might be if he could see a bit of road.
They now have to decide within Vitaphone when they're going to call their 3 cars in and in what order. Because if they have got a slightly slower one out there, if they can dispatch that one into the pits and get rid of it out of the running for the time being, then that's one fewer to deal with. They've got to do 3 more pit stops as a team, and this is the overall battle for the lead. Mike Hazelman's holding it at the moment by 0.4 of a second from the 2 Maseratis, but if these 2 cars can get ahead of Mike Hazelman's, and Bobby believes he can. That seems to be the body language, doesn't it? Yes. Is it the Bobby language that seems to be the order of the day? Matteo Bobby definitely wants past Miguel Ramos. Ramos, of course, is on his home track before his home crowd, and he won't want to be giving way.
Well, as I understand it, the tyres are not being used very hard by this surface, and they don't have a big cycle in them either. They sort of warm up, come to you and stay there. But they had a long time behind the safety car, and they will have dropped off their optimum temperature. And of course the Maseratis are much better on cold tyres and old tyres than the Corvette. I mean, you may see that Mike Hazelman takes a couple of laps before that car comes towards him a little bit and gives him something to use against the Maserati onslaught. And he may well be in a bit of trouble for another lap or so, because they don't really come to you until they're over 100 degrees, and that will have lost. And there is the pass, or is it? Yes, it is, straight through on the inside and running wide. Has he got past? Did he make it stick? No, I think he went right off, and Hazelman is back out in front. And
in the meantime, Bobby's made it past as well, so he's got his wish. Miguel Ramos making the pitch down the inside of Mike Hazelman's, couldn't stay on track under braking, and that has allowed not only Hazelman's back in front of him, but also his teammate Matteo Bobby. Now, Bobby was showing every sign of being quicker than Ramos, in his mind anyway, and this might be where he has to prove himself.
I've got a suspicion that Mike Hazelman has got his hands rather fuller now than he did have at this point on the previous lap, but I'm hoping for his sake that the car has brought its tyres up to a racing temperature and he can hold it off. But of course we don't know where they are in their life cycle either, exactly, those tyres, and we do know definitely that Matteo Bobby hasn't got the 70 kilos that Hazelman has got in the Corvette.
Here's the replay of the passing manoeuvre made there by Ramos up the inside, but just running too deep into the corner before getting on the brakes and indeed on the concrete dust. So not able to make the pass stick, and Mike Hazelman's again is out front. What Maserati really want to do is to get one of these cars in front of Hazelman's and then just back it off by about a few tenths a lap, so that Bartels can come and join the party. He's currently 13 seconds behind this little battle, supreme battle for the lead.
Yes, it would be very difficult to get past a car that was just a few tenths off its best pace. As we've seen, overtaking is a challenge here. It's not easy. So that would work, and obviously as a team strategy that will work. Here he goes, Matteo Bobby on the outside. He can't make that work either, can he?
No. Enrico Benoldi, despite his stop-go penalty, is last time through 43 seconds behind the leader, and the leaders still have to make pit stops.
And of course Benoldi's just set the car's fastest lap time, as you would expect, 42.9. Hazelman's last lap time was at 45.9, so Benoldi is definitely working on it, isn't he? Lights flashing with Hazelman, there's someone in front of him, he's closing up on the tail end of traffic. This will be interesting for Bobby and for Ramos. I can't see anyone in front, but Mike Hazelman obviously can. He's got a much better view of the circuit, and I think that is Luigi Lucchini. Is it still in the 97 car?
Yes, he is still in the car. That's one of the GT2 cars still to make a second stop. But, on corrected times, when we come to look at all the outstanding pit stops, James Ruffier will hold, as we are at the moment, about a half-minute lead over Enrico Benoldi.
And here is the battle for GT2 leadership. This is number 60, Richard Westbrook, jumping up and down behind the 77 car of Paolo Ruberti. BMS can figure in these races from time to time. They haven't managed to string the season together in the way they would like, but they're not short of driving talent, as you can see. And Mike Hazelman is not short of pressure. It was David Ashburn, wasn't it, who just moved aside?
Yep. Was Tim Sugden again, because they've made their second stop.
Oh, have they now?
Yeah.
All right. So the second is, I suppose so, 33 minutes remaining. Doesn't it fly when you're having fun?
And that's why these next stops are going to be so critical, because there won't be a lot of time after them to play catch-up. You're going to have to get everything right.
So Mike Hazelman, Matteo Bobby, Miguel Ramos, Michael Bartels all need to stop again. James Ruffier in 5th place, 13 seconds behind Bartels, doesn't need to stop. That could just play into the hands of Ruffier and Langin, and that would be interesting indeed, because I think that Corvette might suddenly appear at the front end of the leaderboard again.
And with this top three nibbling at each other's heels, that's allowing Bartels slowly to catch up. His laps in the last couple of the three have been quicker than any of the three cars ahead. Andrea Bertolini is being briefed as to what he needs to do now when he takes over from Michael at the next stop. James Ruffier sets number 3 car's fastest lap, and all over the back of Mike Hazelman's is Matteo Bobby.
Yes, I think he's got closer, hasn't he? And he's towed Miguel Ramos with him, so Ramos will be pleased with that. Ruffier's just set the best time in that car at 1:42.5, the number 3 car that we were talking about earlier on just a second ago. There it is, I think, just a glimpse of it in the background. We go back in the cockpit with the 33 car of Matteo Bobby, second place. Oh dear! And who was that? It was Michael Bartels, wasn't it?
Yes, looks like the number 1.
Yes, that was Michael Bartels. Ruffier's just got past him. Bartels just spun the back end a little bit out of line, and I think that may just have been under pressure. But it's that bounce again. It's exactly there. That Maserati gets all horribly out of shape, and then the braking is. Oh dear, that's what, isn't it? Yes, I think he had a little tap, but I think he was backed out of that because it got out of shape. The front end was all over the place. He was struggling to get it turned, and James Ruffier just caught him up rather faster than he was expecting, although I'm sure Michael Bartels will have another opinion about that, won't he?
Entirely possible, of course, and Michael Bartels will also have a pit stop to make, and that might be the thing that prompts him to make it now.
Yeah, so that, as we said, that number 3 car will come into contention when the pit stops happen, because everybody in front of him, these 3 included, have to stop again. It's going to be a pit stop race between PK and Vitafone Maserati. PK have got 1 stop to do, and Vitafone have got 3. Different cars, obviously, but they've still got 3.
They've got 3 to deal with.
So they've got to think about all of that, and I hope that indicator on the Celine there, the full-speed car, was just knocked on by accident. This is still going on, isn't it? It still hasn't happened for Westbrook, and he still hasn't stopped trying. He's got a good lead now over Bruni, who is a good long way back on the leaderboard and on the timing screen as well. So this is good news for the championship underdogs, if you like. Second in the points arriving here, and this is his opportunity. Gets on the gas, and the Porsche's got traction. He is worrying the life out of Paolo Ruberti, but he cannot get past.
Cracking battle for GT2 honours.
And again, up the inside, this is it. Late on the brakes, can he do it? Yes, he's got track position. Yep. Paolo Ruberti has to give him best. On the gas now, it's an acceleration competition. It's a drag race up the hill that Westbrook has won. And all of a sudden, from the back of the grid after that spin early in the race, Collard and Westbrook have done it again and come from the back to lead the GT2 race. They are quite something, aren't they?
Yeah, it seemed to take forever for Manu to make back the time that he cost himself in spinning, as we see a replay of Westbrook making a nice clean firm pass up the inside, not really fully alongside, but 3/4 of the way there, and I think quite honestly Paolo Ruberti realised that there was no option but to let go.
And we go back to the Maserati battle. Bobby with Miguel Ramos, and out of the pits. Was that the other of the BMS cars coming out of the pit lane? I can't see a red light on my screen, so I think it might have been Diego Romanini. No.
Could have been the 51 car of Niki Kadei, which has made its second stop as well as its penalty stop.
Right, well, there's a little bit of shuffling going on in GT2, and the pit stops there might affect the outcome. But that is an old tyre lying on the ground at the back of this pit stop. It's a very old tyre, isn't it? And of course they've had a puncture and they may well have run out of tyres. And I wonder if they're going to put that on the car, if it's just there in case.
I spoke to Andrea earlier on today. He was saying that in an ideal world they would have done tyres at both stops, but clearly you don't have enough tyres in a race weekend to allow that to happen. What is happening, however, is that Mike Hazelman's somehow or other is pulling away from both of these Maseratis. Matteo Bobbi's attack on the back of Hazelman's has not really come to fruition.
Mike Hazelman's tyres may have come towards him though, and that may be all about it, but it's certainly working in his favour. So what have we got here? Let's have a look. Mike Hazelman leads Bobby by 1.2 seconds last time going past the pit lane. Miguel Ramos is still nailed to the back end of the 33 car. Then it's Ruffier fourth in the number 3. Michael Bartels with a little bit of a worrying moment there, still in 5th, and we'll just wait to see whether he goes into pit lane now or whether he records a time going across the start-finish line. We've got to wait for that while you're looking at the number 2 car there of Ramos. There's your race leader. Here comes the moment when Bartels will tick across our timing screen away from your sight, and he's in the pits. That's what he has done. There he is. So that's his decision made. You predicted it, didn't you, Graham? And it has indeed come to pass. And now we're going to take all of these race positions, put them in a bag, shake them up very thoroughly, and tip them back out onto the timing screen and see how they work out.
Give them about 25 minutes to play with each other. Off comes reluctantly the tear off for the windscreen. There it goes.
Hundreds of pounds they are, hugely expensive things. They just look like a bit of old cling film, don't they? No tyres going on there, so that tyre was out in pit lane as an emergency reserve, and they're just picking it up and clearing it out. So Mike Hazelman, race leader, still owes us a pit stop. This is why he's speeded up, isn't he? Because he knows that he's got to nail some time, because he wants to earn on track the difference between a PK pit stop and a Vitafone pit stop, and it can be quite a lot. He's on the tail end of the GT2 Championship leader, Jimmy Bruni, stooging round in about 6th place at the moment in GT2. That's not what they want. Alex Muller will finish the race for the number 2 car. Miguel Ramos has done his middle stint, and he's obviously next in. So you can't help thinking that if Vitafone are cycling their pit stops now, that the next lap you will see the 33 car in as well, and then we'll find out just what kind of a gap Mike Hazelman is working with.
Okay, so it's going to be Ramos who comes in 2nd. Bobby staying out to keep the pressure on Mike Hazelman's. In we come on the rev limiter.
So slow, isn't it? Even when you're in the onboard camera position as we are, you can see that the pit lane speed restriction is operative.
And it's a long pit lane.
It's about 35 seconds, I think, just to bimble through the pit lane from start to finish at the timing markers. And away it goes again. Oh, there's a little stall there. Is he going to fire it up? No tyres, because as you say, they're running out, and yes, he gets it going. And where's he going to come out on the track? He's going to come back right a long way down, isn't he? Because there goes Benoldi in the number 8 car. So we've had a Maserati pit stop followed by a Maserati pit stop. Hazelman leads the 33 car of Matteo Bobbi by 1 and a bit seconds. Alex Muller's back in number 2, having made the 2nd stop. Benoldi is going to benefit here as you predicted. Ruffier is going to benefit here as we predicted. And we'll now wait to see how it shakes out as the final couple of pit stops take place. Owing us stops are 4 and 33, Hazelman and Bobby, and a couple of others. Yes, it's not really going to affect the outcome of the race, is it? Randy Cummins is in 6th place at the moment and will go a lot further back when he hands over to Baz Linders. But our question really is about the car behind him. Although I like the look of the Ford GT immensely, I think it's the kind of provide interest as we end the last 5 minutes of this race. Hazelman, tiny margin over Matteo Bobbi, and I can't help thinking that Matteo Bobbi's wasting his time trying to pass Mike Hazelman at this point, because they both got to stop, and probably on this lap for Matteo Bobbi, and we're not quite sure about Mike Hazelman.
And Mike has driven a brilliant stint in the middle here of the race, started by Anthony Kumpen, and he really has put down some stir this lap of the race. So no doubt about the pace of this car. They just need to get this last pit stop right, turn the car around mega quickly, and hope for the best.
Yes, we've talked about this before. The Corvette drivers have to take the steering wheel off there. Oh, Bernaldi! Yes, Enrique Bernaldi in the yellow and green Corvette is busy trying to get past Richard Westbrook as fast as he can. And he could afford to wait a bit longer, I think, especially because Westbrook owes us a pit stop. Of course, Bernaldi's chasing after everybody in front of him.
Yes.
And he's currently, what, 7th?
There he goes past Westbrook. Westbrook having to tuck back in as quickly as he can to make sure there's no chance of a counter-attack from behind. But Westbrook and Roberti at the head of the GT2 field do still both owe us a pit stop. And Andrew Kokordi in the lead CRS car, of which we've seen very little this afternoon other than when he had his unfortunate spin and an early stop, has made his way up into 3rd place in class.
And he's not very far behind.
Only about 13 seconds behind Roberti, so that's not time for a pit stop.
Absolutely not. The pit stops are going to be critical. They are going to change a lot of things. Of course, Westbrook and Collard are really racing Bruni and Wielander, but Bruni in 6th place in GT2 at the moment has made his 2nd stop as well, so this might not be quite so rosy coloured for Pro Speed as it appears at the moment.
But if you tot up all the differences between Westbrook and Bruni all the way down, it comes to almost exactly the time that a pit stop is going to take. Oh, however, we've got a stop code penalty for what has Andrew Kokordi got to do? Car number 56 has been awarded a 13-second stop go penalty. We know not for what.
13 seconds is a long time, but on the other hand, long pit lane, and it's about 35 seconds just to bimble down it between the timing in and timing out. There's a bit more on top at either end that isn't timed, so you're heading towards a minute just to do a drive-through. So a minute and 13, it's rather pretty much immaterial, isn't it? Well, not immaterial, but it's not going to make a big difference. Alex Pierguidi waiting for 33. We thought it was coming in, or I thought it was coming in the last lap, but it's still out there, and there's not a yellow car in front of it as there was earlier.
No, the yellow car is 1.76 seconds down the road, and possibly more now, 3.65. So Bobby's had a bit of a slow lap, and Mike Hazelman's has had another gem.
There he is in the distance, that tiny little yellow speck just clearing turn 1. And already out of sight up the hill. So yes, indeed, there has been something, but not on that lap. I think it must have been the previous one, because their sector time's pretty much the same, weren't they?
Yeah, Alex Muller putting in his car's fastest lap of 42.7 in his pursuit of effectively Enrique Bernaldi, although Renault Kuppens sits at the moment in the way, but owing us a pit stop. And there is that little battle. The Maserati behind the turquoise and black car of Alex Muller, about to put his way, in fact doesn't have to battle his way past, because Renault Kuppens pulls in for his pit stop.
He makes the stop he owes us, and that makes him up to 2, and so it's only the leading pair in GT1 who have yet to make their 2nd stop, Hazelman and Bobby. And that could change everything at the front of the leaderboard. And of course, when Westbrook goes back in to hand over to Collard, that could change a lot as well.
Yep, because out of 2nd place in has come, and here he is, Paolo Roberti, to hand back to Matteo Malucelli. So it's Richard Westbrook alone who owes us a pit stop in GT2, and as you said, Richard Hazelman and Bobby owing us stops in GT1.
Yes, look, Westbrook has got Roberti in 2nd place on our leaderboard, but there he is handing over to Malucelli. Capaldi's got to come and do a stop-go penalty, so he's not in the equation. So Nicky Kadei is now effectively going to be 2nd in GT2, but he's made his pit stops. Everybody else has made their pit stops, and Pro Speed have got a job on, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
See where they come out. Ruffier and Longier now in 2nd place, because in comes Matteo Bobby. So it's Ruffier up to 2nd. Bobby will now drop down your leaderboard if you're watching the live timing at mstworld.com, And that's the final handover to Alex Pierguidi, who was looking fairly relaxed in pit lane as he was waiting for his car to come in and get the keys and the logbook and everything stamped. And off he goes. And again, another tear off on the screen. You don't see that in PK Racing, do you? That was a very short fill for that Maserati, wasn't it?
Another textbook stop for Maserati there.
That's a very good stop for them. And this is, look, there's Benoldi flashing his headlights and picking off the GT2s. Out comes the 33 car. And where is Mike Hazeman? He's in the middle of this lap. He's just finished sector 2. The really tricky crest at the top of the hill there. And he's launched himself into sector 3. So in a minute we'll know if he's going to come into pit lane or not. And we will be just wondering why we've got a replay here, and it's Muller, isn't it, closing up on the tail end of Westbrook. And look at that. Oh, Westbrook.
That's why we got the replay.
Alex Muller didn't want that to happen, did he? And Westbrook didn't want that to happen either, did he?
That has sufficiently fired up Alex Muller that he's just set the race's fastest first sector. Here is your race leader, still owing us a pit stop after 55 laps.
So that is the answer. Mike Hazeman isn't coming in yet. And of course, Anthony Kumpen, I'm not sure he did he must have done 35 minutes at the beginning of the race, mustn't he? So they can stop according. What they'll do is work out how long it takes to do a driver change, and they'll stop any time after that moment in the race. So they might have a little bit of a window of opportunity. It's the fuel fill that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much fuel can you get in the car? That's a shame, because that is the full speed racing Celine, and that looks as if it's an unscheduled visit to the pits. Stefan Lemaire is sat there patiently. He looks as though he's not doing anything, but he'll be talking to the team on the radio. That's it, out of the car. Oh no, that's it, everyone
mechanic into the car, yes. Rather like doing a telephone box squash, isn't it? Race's fastest lap there too. Alex Muller, 1:41.8. First man to dip into the 1:41s throughout the afternoon.
What are we going to see from the number 4 Corvette? They've only got 15 minutes, so they can easily squeeze a driver change and a little bit of a fuel fill now. So it's splash and dash time for them, but they do have to change drivers. That is the rule. As we go back with Alex Muller, and through he goes past Tim Sugden, now tacked onto the tail end of Alex Pierguidi, so it's sort of heading towards the formation finish time for the Maseratis. The critical thing is that Bertolini is 6th in the number 1 car, the championship leader, and at the moment he is what's he going to be behind the race leader Hazeman, who is 2nd, 4 points behind. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's about 41 seconds between Hazeman and Muller at the moment, and you know fine well that the Maseratis want to be packing in behind Ruffier and Benoldi to prevent Hazeman from scoring heavily this round.
Yes, and Mike Hazeman perhaps won't be too distressed if he doesn't score top points, because that means he won't score top ballast either, and we're going to Paul Ricard next time, and the long straights do sap power. Well, stopwatch time now. It's all about sums, and I'm not very good at this bit.
This is where you need the cooperation between the two Maseratis. If there's any hint of one holding up the other, then they really must give way.
They're trying to obviously get as fast laps as they can while we wait for Hazeman to make his late stop in hand to Kumpen, using a lot of curb. You can do that here. Most of the curbs, I think, except in the big left hairpin, most of the curbs are fairly kind. Quite
forgiving. Just having to back out of it a bit there, losing the front end, just washing out. You see the turn on the wheel not having much effect.
The GT1s do have a bit more aero on them than the GT2s, and has he been given that place? Yes, he has, and just let go because he's obviously quicker. They have a bit more aero at the front end than the GT2s, and you will see that if it gets too close to the car in front, it just starts to wash out at the front.
And there is that hairpin was where the pass was made, so having to give room because you can't squeeze onto the curbs there. It's that would not do the bottom of the car any good at all.
Muller letting the GT2s in front know that he is there. I'm sure that in the number 78, Diego Romanini knows all about it. The blue flags will be waving, and you can see one on the right-hand side, just to tell the GT2 drivers that GT1 is approaching. Both the Maseratis take one place, but struggle to take two at once, despite their superior speed.
Richard Westbrook still heading GT2, but still owing us a pit stop, and behind Nicky Kadei in the number 51A of course the car is a scant 28 seconds down the road. I don't think you can get in and out. In fact, you told us you can't.
It's yes, you could if you didn't do anything else, but he's got to do a driver change, so that's 15 seconds right there, really, isn't it?
Yep. And as it stands, it's Corvettes 1 to 3, Maseratis 4 to 6, but all that may well change. Certainly will change as far as Mike Hazeman is concerned, because like it or not, and I'm sure he won't, he's got to come into hand back to Anthony Kumpen.
Well, they have only got 12.5 minutes in which to do that, but PK Racing have worked this before, and it gave them a race win, and I think it was in Germany, wasn't it, when it rained, and Anthony Kumpen drove the middle stint forever, it seemed, and Mike Hazeman just finished off the last 10 minutes. So they've obviously thought this through and used this strategy before, but it depends. Then that's Michael Bartels, is it, on the left of the picture there?
Yeah.
Discussing this, because it's obviously quite critical. Westbrook and Collard doing the swap. That's Westbrook with his back to us, Manuel Collard with the pink stripe on his helmet, Westbrook with the green, and no tyres, they haven't got time for that. There's a championship to win, and they just got to get back out there. Collard going back out on rubber that Richard Westbrook, as we've seen, has used fairly thoroughly in the last few minutes, hasn't he?
Yep, and it is just the last few minutes of the race, the last 12 in fact. Just a dozen minutes for Collard to make whatever impression he can on the GT2 field, while Alex Muller continues to make his impression on GT1, setting another fastest sector of all in Sector 1.
Graham, I'll tell you why we had that picture of Michael Bartels in earnest discussion there on the screen, because race control message at the moment says incident between cars 3 and 1 under investigation. And of course, Michael Bartels had a little tap, didn't he,
yes,
from the number 3 car
yes,
of James Ruffier, and he's obviously feels that that was an unjustified little thing. Looked to me like it was all racing incident, and I don't think James Ruffier was doing anything other than following Bartels as closely as he could. But it's not my call, is it? It's somebody else's call, and he's got a big stick.
Yes, he has, and Enrico Benaldi in the meantime is a fair way down the road from James Ruffier, so if there were to be a penalty, he could inherit second place. But his major concern at the moment is what's going on behind him, because Alex Muller is absolutely flying.
And so is the AstroTurf on the edge of the track there, isn't it? Just being ripped up as the cars run wide. Another reason why you don't want to go too far off the edge of the circuit, because that stuff isn't grass, but it's every bit as slippery, and it will throw you off the circuit.
Here is Benaldi in third, and tucked in behind there is Alex Muller. Now, having cleared Pierre Guidi, he's romped away to the tune of some 7 seconds, and he desperately wants to get on the podium and to depose Benaldi. With Hazeman stopping as well, this effectively becomes a battle for second place, even if Ruffier doesn't get any penalty as a result of that investigation you were telling us about, Richard.
Indeed, and that would be a result, wouldn't it, for SRT, for Bert Langin and for James Ruffier, because if they win this race, and they do stand a fairly serious chance of doing that,
yep,
they will have won it. It hasn't been gifted to them. Nobody has crashed or broken or had a bit of bad luck. They have been racing out there, not always in our view, and they're racing now as they come down this front straight and out to the outside. That's not the way to do it. Benaldi's got this one covered off nicely. Two really hard competitive drivers, very clever drivers, and look at the speed they're going. Muller alongside, dives to the other side now, and this circuit does not really invite this kind of behaviour. This could change everything, and Alex Muller has got a lot to prove, but he still must have in the back of his mind that incident in Budapest that will stop him launching the full attack that we know he's capable of.
Yep, and effectively Benaldi is racing as well for himself for the third place, which is held in the championship by Xavier Marson. That's why they drafted Martin into this car this weekend, and the more points he can score, the more secure his third position will be. But Alex Muller is doing everything he knows to take all those points away again.
Bernaldi and Muller again having a look, going over the crest, and that was a brave move from Muller. He's been thinking about that one.
He's not short on brave, is he, Alex Muller?
Not, is he?
He has absolutely set the track alight over the whole season, really. Wherever he's been, he's made headlines when he's been in the car. Sometimes for the right reasons, sadly, sometimes for the wrong. But his commitment and his quality in the car, never under question. He will try any which way to get round Enrico Bernaldi's Corvette.
8.5 minutes remaining, and be careful when you watch that onboard. This is not a PlayStation game. They're at it for real, and they're doing it at 200 kilometers an hour around a fabulous swoopy circuit. Everybody loves it here, and you're just looking at some of the reasons why we will almost certainly be back here in 2010 with the GT1 World Championship, because this racetrack has provided drama every step of the way. Bernaldi knows exactly what Muller's thinking, doesn't he? And that's all done and dusted, thank you very much, through turn one. And now Muller's got all of those little corners where it looks like you could get past, but you can't really. And he's going to do all of that all over again. Here he goes up the inside, taps on the back. They are almost touching as they go over the crest of the hill. This is a simulator ride that you would pay to be on if you were at one of those big American holiday resorts.
A terrific battle. I'm going to love this for the next 7 minutes, because I think it's going to last that long, I suspect. Mike Hazeman still owes us a pit stop up in the lead. Right, James Ruffier has got a handy 40 seconds over this battle. Bernaldi or Muller, whichever it's going to be. Oh, the only advantage Muller has, I suspect, is that his Maserati typically has been lighter on the tyres maybe than the Corvette. Oh, nip and tuck all the way. Another attempt, another way. But Bernaldi knows exactly where to place the Corvette on the track to deny any opportunity as a slower car moves hastily out of the way. It's the GT40 is slowing. They're not moving out of the way, just not moving properly. White flag being given in the background to denote the slower car on the circuit. But Alex Muller's not that slower car. He is desperately trying to be the quickest man out there. And the man who's in his way, Enrico Bernaldi, knows where to put the Corvette to make life as hard as he possibly can for the Vitaphone Maserati.
It is horsepower in the Corvette against a little bit of agility from the mid-engined Maserati, and it doesn't quite have the grunt on the front straight that you find from the Corvette. Bernaldi can get his power down. Muller is being forced to try the outside line there. Bernaldi keeps him in that position, and that's not the way round. He wants to be on the inside. Bernaldi knows that. Now he's trying the outside, but watch that Corvette put the horsepower down, and those rear wheels spinning as Bernaldi fires it up the hill. And once again, Alex Muller is all frustration. He's done this 3 times already, and he still can't find a way past. And incidentally, Mike Hazeman still can't find a way into pit lane. In fact, where is Mike Hazeman? Somewhere in the middle sector of this lap as Muller draws alongside. Can he get the power down? No, look at the Corvette easing him over, keeping him on the crest. Muller right round the outside. He's going to do this the hard way. Bernaldi takes him out to the edge of the track and takes the racing line. I can hear the Corvette in pit lane underneath us, but I cannot take my eyes off the screen.
Another brilliant attempt, diving down on the inside there, but again Bernaldi knows exactly what to do. Remember, F1 experience in Bernaldi's scratch helmet.
Fantastic stuff from both of these. Muller again. Look, he's tried on every corner on this lap, hasn't he? There's not a corner on this circuit that he hasn't had a go at. None of them work for him. His only real chance is on the end of the straight. And here is the battle for the lead. Here is the battle between these two. Don't know which one to look at. Hazeman has handed over to Kumpen, and Ruffier now must inherit the lead. And that makes this the battle for second place, as you say, Graham.
Yep.
And at the moment it's Bernaldi second and Muller third, as they again come out onto the front straight. And again, now what is Muller going to try? He's thought of everything along here so far, and he's still being eased towards the outside line, and Bernaldi's got him sorted before they arrive there, hasn't he?
Yep. all Enrico Benoldi needs to remember is that whatever Alex Müller does, and he will try anything, locking up down the inside there, he's not going to give an inch, is he? Benoldi just has to maintain his track position and make Müller do it the long way round, because it's nigh on impossible.
He's got 3 minutes and 55 seconds left. He's got 2 laps. Maybe they'll get a third out of this. And he's just got to try now, and he is trying now. Müller alongside going up the hill, and still it hasn't happened for him. Still Benoldi's using that V8 grunt to pull ahead. Look in the background, you'll see another Maserati coming in to join the fight. But it won't help because he won't be able to get past either, although he could be able to gang up with him, I suppose. But still up that hill, that Müller is still just touching the back end of that Corvette. Still Benoldi holding his line, holding his nerve, and breaking it as late as he does. They are treading the very edge of the envelope, these two.
Oh, no. Absolutely marvellous stuff. Benoldi knows exactly what to do. But look at Müller again, trying around the outside again, having to give it best. Diving back down the inside. Has he got it this time? No, because the next turn goes in favour of the Brazilian.
Benoldi still fighting off Müller. We're down to the last 3 minutes, or we're in the last 3 minutes, and there is a second Maserati close behind. These two are getting slower because they're doing this, and if they just got on with lapping, they would go faster.
Yep, and it's Andrea Bertolini who's towing up on the back of this pairing. Michael Bartel's partner, of course, championship leaders. And again, just look at Benoldi. He holds his line. It's up to Alex Müller to make the pass, and he can't do it.
It's not going to work from this side of the track, but he tries every time to get a run up the hill, and he's always tapping on the back door of the Corvette. And in this corner, he's on the outside. He gets the power down, but there's the Corvette.
Now he's
courtesy of all that horsepower. The hell he goes.
Oh, my word, my
Meanwhile,
word.
back at the front of the race, what you can't see, it's Ruffier by 32 seconds from Anthony Kumpen, and they are 18 seconds ahead of this battle. So it's Corvette, Corvette, Corvette at the moment. First, second and third, and that's exactly what the Maserati team don't want. Here comes Müller's pass. He's done it this time. He's on the inside. Which way does the track go? Here goes Benoldi's way. Thank you very much.
Fantastic stuff. Now look at this. Look at Bertolini round the outside. Fantastic.
Team orders? I don't think so. Those two are racing, and Müller's coming straight back at Andrea Bertolini and puts him in his place. Get back behind me. Benoldi, Alex Müller, Andrea Bertolini. There's a championship at stake for Maserati. The one car must finish ahead of the number 2. Here comes Müller again. He has another stab up the inside. This is just going to go all the way to the front. There are 3 Maseratis lined up behind Enrico Benoldi, and still the Brazilian is fighting them off. He's been electrifying since he came to this championship, Graham, and what's he done this afternoon?
Absolutely breathtaking stuff. As you say, the 3 Maseratis lined up to try and bully Enrico Benoldi into a mistake. I can't see him making one, but Alex Müller will not be denied if he can find half an inch of free air to get his car squeezed into. He will do it. Here he is again, tucked right up underneath the wing of the Corvette, almost disappearing on the camera shot there. Now he's got the inside line. Now he's made it stick. Now he's done to Benoldi. Yeah, but no, he's made it stick. Benoldi can't break back on that. Bertolini having a look as well. But now Benoldi has really got to try and get the bit between the teeth to get that position back. I can't see it happening. Müller's been the quicker car all afternoon, and they are lighter on their tyres, as you've made that point several times over the year. Always been right. Bertolini looking again and nibbling, but being cut off. Here's our leader. What a brilliant result for them. SRT, Patrick Sellerslar, little team, the first team ever to run a privateer Corvette. And they are going to take the honours, providing they survive this last lap.
Slow down. He's on the last
He's
lap.
already passed the line.
He's passed the line. That was, he could have slowed down in that corner. He had, what, 12 seconds in hand. And now they've all got to do another lap. I thought that James Ruffier would be backing off on that straight.
No, I'm enjoying this so much I slipped him a few euros to do.
He wants more.
I want to see this battle between Bertolini and Benoldi
now, and as they run up the hill, Benoldi does it again. He's seen a lot of this. Oh, and Bertolini has got a bit of a drive round the corner, but Benoldi's handled this before from Alex Müller, and Bertolini racing for the championship as well as for what is it now, 4th place, isn't it? He's racing for now. And at the moment, that's Bernoldi's 4th place. It's going to stay that way because they have completed their final lap. Well.
And draw breath.
And for the 3rd time, we've got a sign on the top of the screen that says last lap. And you are now getting another last lap. I'm not sure what that's all about. But we are still racing because they didn't get a checkered flag that time around. So Bertolini's got another lap to try it on with Enrique Bernoldi. And Bernoldi, just when he thought he could breathe again, has got to fight this pair off all the way around the 5.7 kilometres that make up this Portimao circuit. And it wasn't a race win for SRT last time around, although the clock went 0. This time they will see a checkered flag. So for the 3rd time of asking, it happens for James Ruffier, GT3 champion last year, GT1 race winner this year in Portugal, and all those people from the Bert Longin fan club who emailed us over the weekend saying good luck Bert, he's just won the race. Here is the GT2 leader Nicky Cadet, and guess who's in 2nd place?
Yep, it's Manu.
So AF Corsa take the maximum score, which is the most they can hope for. Here is Hazeman. Where is this car going to finish?
In 2nd.
In 2nd place. And that will do very nicely because his championship rival is Andrea Bertolini in 5th spot. There's 4 points between them arriving here. We'll do some mathematics now, try and figure out what's what.
Once they reach the flag.
While these boys sort this out.
Yeah, once they complete this lap, which they're about to do, don't think there's any way that Bertolini, no there isn't, Bertolini can't make that place up. And that might be important at the end of the season, because 5th place is what they're relegated to. That means 4 points, and guess what that means, Richard?
Go on.
45 points each at the head of the field. We
Dead
are tied.
Level. We are dead level. Well, what a result, what a weekend for the SRT team. We haven't seen as much of them perhaps as their performance deserves. James Ruffier, what a drive, what a weekend this man has had. We haven't watched a lot of it because we've been too busy watching the theatricals going on with Bernoldi and co, and it has been theatrical. Alex Muller is impressive as you always knew he would be. Bernoldi is exciting as you knew he would be, and Hazeman and Kumpen have cleverly done exactly what they plan to do. There's an incident between 3 and 1 still under investigation though, and of course Michael Bartels, if he's got any sense, will be pushing hard to get that race result annulled as quickly as possible, because it'll shuffle all his Maseratis up one, and that's what he's most of all interested in. So GT2 won by AF Corsa, Nicky Cadet and Alvaro Barber Lopez, Manuel Collard and Richard Westbrook. How did they manage that? We stopped watching them because of the GT1 excitement, but they were looking very much as if they were in a difficult position with their pit stops, in the same way that Hazeman and Kumpens were, but both of them managed to get in that pit lane, get the driver change done and get back out without dropping a position, and it didn't look really feasible, did it, when we were doing very quick sleight of hand sums the pit stop time as their pit stop window was evaporating, but there it is, they managed it.
And not only have they got themselves a podium place as James Ruffier piles out of the car. One happy Frenchman, he will be ecstatic. He was over the moon at the qualifying press conference yesterday, but today he's going to be absolutely uncontainable, I imagine. Fantastic result for them and for Patrick Seleslar. Can't praise this little team enough. They fight and they fight and they fight, and rather like second place finishers, and there they are, Anthony Kumpen bringing the yellow and white Mike Hazeman's PK racing car into the second slot. These are the little guys battling the giants, and today it's been their day,
hasn't it? Just, and let's hope it stays their day. But there is that worrying message on the screen. As I said at the time and subsequently, it looked a racing moment to me. It momentarily disadvantaged Michael Bartels, but did not really change the result for him and for Vitaphone.
James Ruffier looking every inch the rock star, doesn't he?
Yes.
Anthony Kumpen in the background. Well, I guess be pleased with that.
Yes. and he'll be pleased with his result as well. Second place and 8 points is exactly what he wanted. James Ruffier still, I think, can't quite take this on. He's not sure about this because he's finding it hard to believe that, what, 6 races into his first season in GT1, he has become a worthy race winner. They've earned this in practice.